Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Fires raged amidst the rubble of the ancient city, lightning flashed and thunder boomed, and skies were a rolling blackness that obscured the sun. The ruins were 1,000 years old and not much remained standing, not after so much damage caused by plasma and blaster fire and powerful bombs used by the marching armies of sentients at war among themselves. It was just one of many battles waged between the armies of Sith and the Republic. No matter how hard they fought, the Republic forces led by valiant Jedi Knights never managed to fully extinguish the Sith Lords. But today, the Jedi were to be victorious. Two shapes moved in the rubble, both just shadows in the dark. Ordinary person would need a vision enhancer to see anything, let alone navigate the treacherous ensemble of stone, metal and other composite materials. But these two weren't ordinary, they were Force users of high skill and great power. The Force was a mysterious energy field that is said to encompass the whole galaxy and all things within, binding them together, penetrating them, and making it all one living wholeness of massive, unimaginable power. Many people studied it for many lifetimes, until the start of the entire order of mystical scholars devoted to understanding of the Force. They came to realize that many seemingly magical feats like mind reading, telekinesis, healing and others were just various uses of the Force. These scholars came to develop means of training young minds to better understand the Force and use it. They became the Jedi Order, protectors of the galactic civilization and knowledge. As the ages passed, the Jedi grew more powerful and knowledgeable. They came to realize that there was a dark aspect of the Force, Bogan. Later they called it just the dark side and chose not to study it because they sensed great power and danger within that current of the Force. But as it usually is, some Jedi thought they could do more good by studying the wholeness of the Force, which meant the dark side too. They chose to let go of the restraints of the Order. They actively sought ways to increase their powers in the Force. They believed it was wrong to limit oneself from reaching their maximum potential. That thinking led them to believe that if one could do something, why shouldn't he? Eventually these revolutionaries were discovered as they openly started to try and convince their fellows to abandon security for the sake of unlimited knowledge and understanding. It led to an open schism in the Order and the First Jedi Internal War. The Dark Jedi lost, because their numbers and powers were lesser than those of their former brethren. But the seed of hatred was sown and it grew strong, fueled by the passion and anger of the former Jedi who felt betrayed even though they were the traitors who struck first. They were exiled out of the known territories of the galaxy to roam alone and never return. The exiles were few. In time they stumbled upon a world full of strong dark side practitioners. They called themselves the Sith. The exiles saw great potential in those people and a hope for themselves. They conquered these people who viewed them as their gods who descended from heavens wielding awesome powers. In time the exiles and the Sith became one race separated in castes, but the leaders were descended from the exiles, who were mostly human, and were the strongest Force users. They became Sith Lords led by one supreme Sith Lord. They spread to several other worlds and formed their Sith Empire, but it was tiny when compared to many worlds of the Republic. In time the Sith found their way back to the Republic and it started a long sporadic series of Sith emergence and wars with the Republic and the Jedi. The Sith always caused massive devastation and deaths as living servants of the malevolent dark side of the Force. Each time they would be defeated and yet never completely. Their knowledge remained behind in many forms, ready to corrupt those who would stumble upon it and dare to learn. And so it happened again. A lone and curious Jedi Knight Tyrion Sorrel discovered accidentally a lost Sith holocron on his journeys and he studied it since he was fascinated by the history of the Jedi Dark Brethren. The device was very powerful, much more than Tyrion suspected, and its dark side energy corrupted the Jedi slowly, so subtly he never even saw what was going on with him. As the old saying went, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Tyrion used gained knowledge to accomplish some of his Jedi tasks and saw nothing wrong with that. So he sought more knowledge wanting to do more good. And his fate was sealed. In time he forgot his old self and caution and greedily immersed himself in the Sith Lord, thus becoming what he stared into for too long. A new Sith Lord was born, Darth Avaris. And Darth Avaris did as many Sith before him. He started a war to conquer the galaxy under his rule, for he believed he could rule better than some ordinary mortals. He worked long and in secret created a sect of Force-sensitive followers who were seduced by his promises of power, justice and greatness. But again, the Jedi proved too numerous and too strong to be defeated, and Darth Avaris was on the run. Darth Avaris managed to evade the Jedi for some time, but one Jedi remained on his trail, and they were now on this ancient planet doing battle with each other. Massive pieces of stone and metal were flung around telekinetically, lightning attacks were repelled by the Force shield, and lightsabers hummed and twanged loudly whenever they clashed. Red versus Azure Blue cast eerie light around, uncovering the fighters. One was a man in his 40s, in black clothes and armor, his face snarling and his eyes yellow and crimson. He was the mighty Sith Lord. His enemy was a huge hairy Wookiee, Jedi Master Dubak, whose great strength was a massive addition to his exceptional Force powers. Surrender now, Tyrion, and the Jedi Council may show leniency. Dubak's translator said as the Jedi kept his guard. Darth Avaris hissed at hearing his old name that meant nothing to him anymore. Never. I shall win and return at a later time to prevail against the Republic and you fools. The power of the dark side can't be denied. But Avaris wasn't a fool. His enemy was 68 years old and still vigorous as if he was 20. And Dubak was a famous sword fighter whose strength and speed were legendary, and his Force powers were great as well. Old Tyrion Sorrel wouldn't stand a chance. But not Darth Avaris, who possessed a great knowledge of the Sith powers. Sadly, he didn't have time to master them all, but one technique jumped in his mind. It was truly his last resort. He unleashed a barrage of lightning and debris at the Wookiee and retreated whilst focusing his immense hatred and anger. He rediscovered an ancient dark side power to warp the very fabric of space and time, a way to unleash the hyperspace storm. It was a monstrous technique able to raise whole fleets of ships or cities at once. Or one could use it to fling objects across the interstellar distance, depending how good their control was. It was nearly impossible to control such things, yet at the moment Darth Avaris considered it an acceptable risk. He nearly laughed at the sight of the blue-gray vortex of energies he summoned. He was doing it, then something caught his attention. It was a white-blue shaft of energy protruding from his chest. He stared at it, realizing he was mortally wounded by Dubak's lightsaber while said Jedi Master was rapidly retreating, considering his ever-shrinking figure in the distance. Avaris had only enough time to swear loudly as the vortex descended and collapsed, causing a massive explosion that was visible for kilometers around. Avaris's last thought was that at least his killer would die with him, and it didn't make him as happy as he would have liked. 10 minutes after the explosion, a large pile of rubble exploded and bleeding Master Dubak crawled out, coughing and roaring happily. He managed to jump in a large hole and cover it with much debris to protect himself from the blast wave, and his Force shielding helped too. He patted his dirty fur and begun to trek towards his ship. He sighed. He lost his lightsaber. It would be difficult to make another that was as good. Several kilometers from Konoha, a blinding flash of light pulsed and died too quickly to be seen by anybody. Something dropped on the grassy ground. It was a corpse, blackened and misshapen, giving an impression that something fried it and then stepped on it for fun. It wasn't impossible in the world of ninja, not with all those jutsus and summons. But to the former inhabitant of said corpse it wasn't known, and he didn't really care. Darth Avaris's invisible spirit hovered over his charred flesh, marveling at the fact that he somehow survived the blast and the lightsaber stabbing. But he had no time to think. His spirit needed a place of power to nourish its preternatural existence, and so he cast his mind around to sense the Force. To his luck, he found it only a short distance away, a small settlement of humans, and there was a lot of hate and fear there. Also, he could sense a dark, malicious presence there, a focal point that might suit his needs. He flew across the eddies of the Force, which was somehow different here, but not enough to matter to him. He was quick to notice a strange barrier around the village. It held some presence in the Force, but not enough to stop him or even react to his presence. He focused his senses and flew across the primitive settlement, only to find a lone human child of 6 years. It was strange how dual the boy's presence was. He was sad and lonely, yet in him Darth Avaris sensed a massive hate and destructive instinct. The blonde boy was also quite strong in the Force. His mind was naturally blocking out his hate and anger. Darth Avaris saw a great potential here, so he studied the boy closer. He saw it then, a flash of the strangest image he ever encountered. There was a massive energy-based entity within the child, a prisoner who was actually a source of the massive hate he sensed. He licked his non-material lips and dived within the boy, who shuddered at the sudden cold in his stomach. Darth Avaris was surprised to find himself in front of the huge cage with some strange symbols on it. Then two large eyes appeared within the cage and they blasted Avaris with massive dose of angry killing intent. Avaris just stood there and took it without blinking. He waved his hand and the feeling subsided. "Who are you, intruder?" The voice shook the chamber. Darth Avaris wasn't impressed, but he chose to be careful and be polite. "I am Darth Avaris, the Dark Lord of the Sith. Forgive me on my intrusion, but I was curious about your presence within the child that caught my attention. I wasn't aware it was possible for something so vast and powerful to exist within a human." Kyuubi no Kitsune blinked at the apparently dead human, who somehow appeared inside the seal and was able to talk to him even though he obviously didn't speak human tongue. He sensed an opportunity here and chose to restrain his impulse to blast the spirit away. "You speak well for the one who died. I am mighty Kyuubi, the nine-tailed fox. I can cause mountains to crumble, seas to rise and storms to wreak havoc and destruction. I am immortal. I see, well I'm honored Kyuubi. Cease the human prattle. Let us hear what is your interest with my host." Kyuubi growled, narrowing his eyes. He was very possessive of his container as he was already preparing it to serve his purpose. Darth Avaris grinned evilly. "Oh, nothing much. I thought to possess him and take his body as mine, but then you are here and his mind is already pretty powerful. But I need a nexus of hate and anger to latch onto to survive somehow. I'd like to stay with you and survive. In turn I will help your host to become so powerful that no one will be able to stand in his path and survive. In doing it, I sense you would gain your revenge. Am I right?" Kyuubi growled as he thought about it. The spirit was in his domain, at his mercy, and it was offering to train his host to become powerful. "Maybe strong enough to kill that filthy Uchiha? What powers can you teach to my host? I have a strong enemy, someone with chakra even more evil than mine." Darth Avaris shrugged. In theory he could learn to do anything he wants to, if he has the strength and patience. He will be able to see future, past and present. He will learn to move things with his mind, to create illusions that seem real. In time he will be able to kill with just a thought and much, much more. He is strong in the Force, more than I was when I was just a Jedi. Kyuubi liked what he heard, but this spirit was obviously evil, maybe even more so than that Uchiha. But for now, it was weak and in his power. And if his host became so strong, well that was good, and very bad for the Uchiha vermin. "You may stay, spirit, and teach my host to be strong." Darth Avaris bowed and grinned in response. "Oh, I will make him strong, there is no doubt about that." "Good, I normally don't like humans and I wouldn't care at all if you possessed this one. But since he is my host I can't allow that. So mark my words, O dead one. If you do try to trick me or my host there will be hell to pay." Kyuubi said while exuding AMSC killing intent that made the boy who contained both entities shiver violently. "I understand you perfectly Kyuubi," Darth Avaris said with smirk. "I will keep my word and do my best to make your host strong. And I will not posse's him." With that being cleared, Avaris faded from the cage and found himself staring at the blonde child who gazed at the moon with longing and sadness that made Avaris sick. He had grown numb to such feelings and considered them weaknesses. He focused on the boy and his thoughts and he smiled cruelly at what he saw there. His name was Uzumaki Naruto and he was hated by everyone in Konoha for no apparent reason, and he had no friends except for the old leader of the village. He hated being bullied by older kids and he hated being ignored and alone. But he couldn't do anything to change that, so he was just sad and lonely, yet the hope still lingered in his heart. Someday, he would be famous and respected, like Hokage was. Darth Avaris chuckled. This boy was perfect candidate for becoming his apprentice. He focused his energy and the boy gaped at his presence. He sent waves of calm and controlled the boy's reactions. "Relax boy, I'm not here to hurt you." What are you?" Naruto said, feeling very afraid. He heard many scary ghost tales. "I'm a spirit sent to help you Naruto." Naruto panicked. "It was a ghost. I said I'm here to help you boy." Darth Avaris growled. "So stop being scaredy cat and talk to me. Or I'm never returning." Naruto grew scared he would lose this one being who acknowledged his existence. "I'm sorry, I was just surprised." Please, don't go. Alright. Relax, I won't go away. Tell me, are you happy? Naruto grew sad again and shook his head. You're alone and nobody likes you, right? Naruto nodded. And would you like to change that? Naruto nodded vigorously again, not trusting himself to speak. How? I dunno, I guess I want to be strong and wise like the old man. He is the Hokage and everyone likes him. Ah, so you want to be strong and respected. I can help you with that, but it won't be easy or fast. I'm not afraid of hard work. Naruto stated, staring at the spirit hard for the first time. His eyes grew steely, determined. There was power in his voice now. Darth Avaris nodded in satisfaction. This one was not afraid. Then I shall take you as my apprentice, Naruto. Avaris said and showed to Naruto his black-clad form and his glowing yellow-red eyes. Naruto didn't blink. Konoha was full of red-eyed freaky ninja. I accept, Naruto said, and Avaris laughed, sending shivers down Naruto's back. Welcome to the Sith Order, Naruto. I will be your master, call me Master Avaris. And in distance one masked man stood up as the rain showered his black-cloaked form. He was suddenly very worried about something. But the moment passed and he focused on his next destination, Konoha. He had a student to educate on finer points of the genjutsu casting with the Sharingan. He was a promising one, but not exactly in the way he expected. Perhaps his brother would be worth watching as well. He vanished. 7 years passed since Naruto met his master. Darth Avaris kept his word and taught the boy great many things about the Force, especially about the dark side, and Naruto absorbed those lessons like a sponge. By the time he was enrolled at the Academy for Ninjas, Naruto was a different person. He wasn't a cheery idiot with loud voice and clothes that begged for their wearer's death. No, he was silent and attentive, he didn't attract attention, and he didn't really try to make any friends over years of his attendance. Most of the kids ignored him anyway or shied away from him because their parents told them he was bad. Naruto was fine with that. He had better things to do than making meaningless friendships. He learned all he could about being ninja. Those lessons only reinforced what he learned from his disembodied master. The deception was key to victory, to survival, and that one had to do all he can to survive in the harsh world of ninja. He mastered his emotions first under Darth Avaris, mainly his fear. It was the first and most important part of being a Force user, be it Jedi or Sith. Later he learned to see without his eyes, to hear without his ears, and finally he mastered the art of sensing the world through the Force itself, and that lesson was the second most important. He would never be blind or deaf, nor he would succumb to any stupid chakra illusion, which was a pale useless thing next to Force-based illusions and mind-bending tricks. He learned to trust the Force to guide his decisions, his moves in combat, and to empower his body and mind. He learned to move things without touching them, or to sense other people's thoughts and emotions. That ability disabused him of any hope for being accepted by the village. It was a harsh and cold truth. He discovered why was he hated so much, and that cemented his dislike of Konoha. He had no loyalty to the village that used him to survive Kyuubi's attack, instead he chose to use them too. It was really pragmatic, as everyone used each other anyway. Bakers made bread for others who made tools for bakers, civilians provided infrastructural support for ninjas who were protectors and fundraisers. And it was just a practical division of duties since no one could do all of it at once. The village used Naruto as their sacrifice and scapegoat, and he was going to use the village to gain power and victory over his most dangerous enemies. If he could get away with it, he would have left the village already. But he knew that other villages wouldn't be better than Konoha, so he stayed. In fact, he didn't plan on staying in any village. He already decided to work for his own goals. During his years at the academy he was very focused on training, so he trained ninja arts during the day and his Force skills during nights and mornings. He didn't need to sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a day, because of his demon's healing power and due to his Force meditations. In fact, he could go for days without sleep or eating, but he chose not to overdo it. He learned how to use chakra and how to control it better with the help of the Force, so he was ahead of his peers in every way. He just didn't show off. Chakra did have one unforeseen effect on Naruto. The only thing that Darth Avaris found worthy about it, it made Naruto stronger, more resistant to devastating effects that the dark side had on its users, which in turn staved off or even removed mind-altering effects it had on the Sith. The dark side required powerful emotions to be used, and in turn it increased those emotions, thus changing the personalities of the Sith. And that was the result of inherent weakness in all sentients who used the Force. Their bodies were not as powerful as the dark side, and it was the reason it wreaked havoc on them and their minds. Even the ordinary Jedi would feel exhausted after intense usage of the Force. That's why they trained their minds to refine their control and channeling to improve their abilities. Same went for the Sith, but limits were there and quite hard to bypass. It seemed that Naruto had a way to endure ravages of the dark side. And now he was to graduate from the academy and become a full-fledged ninja of the village he detested. It was the last day when a final exam was held. It involved a show of proficiency with basic jutsus taught by the academy. It was to be the Bunshin, a flimsy non-corporeal illusion of the caster being multiplied. It required a fine chakra control since it didn't need much chakra to execute. Henge and Kawarimi were more chakra intensive. Naruto sucked at Bunshins, but he had the Force on his side and he was quite certain he would pass the exam. He watched as students were called for testing one by one. He was going to be the last due to his name. Most of his classmates were average and wouldn't make much of themselves. But some had great potential, like that Uchiha Sasuke. Too bad he was so screwed in his head, that was going to ruin him, Naruto thought. The last Uchiha was very talented and focused, but he was also full of hate for the man who murdered his whole clan. It was his own older brother whom he idolized so much. Only to get spared as worthless of being killed by his hand. Sasuke swore to get his revenge one day and lived only for it. Naruto felt amused by such attitude, because it was shit Sasuke didn't train like he was obsessed no matter what he believed. Naruto knew of at least one kid who would put Sasuke's determination to shame. Too bad that the guy was a weird freak with green spandex obsession. Sasuke believed he only needed his Sharingan to grow strong, and that attitude was idiotic to the extreme. The last Uchiha was surprisingly arrogant, believing he was some big shot just for being an Uchiha and the Rookie of the Year. He forgot his brother was already a Jonin of high level at the same age. Uzumaki Naruto, come in. Iruka's voice was heard from the examination room and Naruto calmly left his seat and entered. Hi sensei, he said while nodding respectfully. Iruka was a tall young man with dark tan and a large scar across his nose and cheeks. He was one of the few who stopped hating Naruto and the boy respected him for that. All right, you know the deal. Make 3 clones and you pass. Start when you're ready. Naruto nodded and formed a hand seal and suddenly there were 3 more Narutos in the room. Iruka looked pleased and his assistant, Toji Mizuki, looked surprised and Naruto felt his anger at him. That was usual for Mizuki who was angry at everyone, even his supposedly best pal Iruka. He just hid it well. Naruto suspected Mizuki was a spy or traitor but he never saw the man do something of the sort. Good job Naruto. Iruka was genuinely pleased. You can have your headband. Congratulations. Naruto took one of several headbands and tied it to his biceps. He grinned, he passed so easily and nobody would know how. He actually used the Force to make an illusion of 3 clones and his teachers didn't understand what happened because he didn't use chakra for them. Oh, he did channel chakra but it was just to cover his tracks. Easy. Thanks sensei, see you around. Sure Naruto. Iruka chuckled and watched as Naruto strutted away. He had a feeling that Naruto was going to do big things. He walked out the academy ignoring stares and whispers of the villagers who were always worried he might do something to them with his power. He was going to, but not what they expected. Oh yes, Naruto smirked as he walked. He was going to make them realize some things, but when he deemed it appropriate, not when they expected it. He was very surprised when Mizuki came to see him at the same afternoon. When Naruto opened the door, Mizuki was all smiles. Naruto saw through it and smirked inwardly. Mizuki was going to try something. Hey sensei, what's up? Can I come in Naruto? I have something important to tell you. Sure. Naruto stepped aside and the treacherous sensei entered. He sat at Naruto's table and looked around. Naruto's place was very ordinary, just a small bachelor's apartment consisting of 1 big room and bathroom. There was a small wardrobe, 1 bed and small kitchen set for cooking and the fridge. Mizuki once lived in similar place. I'll be quick about this Naruto, I'm here to give you the real genin exam. What? Naruto was surprised. Mizuki smirked, enjoying the boy's surprise. Oh, he was going to pull this off after all. Did you really believe that just a simple Bunshin would be enough to become a genin? Quote. Naruto frowned. Well, I was a bit disappointed. Good, because this isn't a cakewalk, Naruto. Your test is a mock-up of the infiltrate and steal scenario, just like you have been taught at the academy. What's the objective? You have to infiltrate the Hokage's tower and steal a particular scroll. Don't worry, you'll have a fair chance for this to work, the security is low tonight. I mean, nobody expects a fresh genin to do this for real. Mizuki explained with earnest expression. Naruto didn't fall for it, not for 1 second. Mizuki pulled out a small scroll. Here are your instructions and follow them carefully. Destroy the scroll after memorizing it. Naruto took the scroll and Mizuki stood up. He left the apartment with an insincere good luck to Naruto. Naruto read the scroll and smiled at the empty air where his master hovered unseen to everybody but him. What do you think, my apprentice? Darth Avaris asked. It's a setup, what else? Of course. What will you do? Naruto grinned evilly. I'll think of something appropriate. Mizuki will get his deserved punishment one way or another. Mizuki was cursing to himself as he was racing through the forest towards his cottage. It was pretty far away and isolated. He chose its location to meet Naruto after he stole the forbidden scroll so he could get rid of the brat without witnesses. But the kid managed to steal the scroll without being seen, and now Mizuki couldn't lay the blame on the demon brat in convincing manner. He had to kill him and get rid of his body and probably run with the scroll immediately instead of waiting for a better time to do it unseen and unsuspected. He grinned as he saw the boy wait for him like a lamb for slaughter. What took you so long, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto said while holding up a large scroll that was actually the most prized possession of Konoha. It contained the most powerful forbidden jutsus known to the village, and only Hokages ever read them or added new ones. Naruto learned a few this evening. Mizuki jumped down before his soon-to-be victim and shrugged. Sorry kiddo, I had some duties to perform before this one. You did a great job, nobody could identify the identity of the thief. Hokage-sama was impressed by your skill. So I passed, With flying colors, Naruto. Mizuki chuckled. In fact, you've done so well that I've decided to be nice and tell you a secret. What secret? Naruto asked curiously. Did you know that Sandaime passed a law when you were born? It's the one everyone knows about except for you and your generation. Oh, you mean about me and Kyuubi? Naruto said with smile and shrug. Mizuki gaped in surprise, he was shocked. Naruto stared at Mizuki with amusement. I've known for a while, Mizuki-sensei. Some people just can't keep secrets. Naruto took the secret out of the mind of some old bastard before he killed him. He made sure it looked like a brainstroke. You little bastard. Mizuki growled. You've been deceiving us the whole time. Of course I did, but don't worry. I'm not Kyuubi, but then you don't care. You tried to set me up for this theft and now I'm going to show you the meaning of pain. So you know my little plan, Mizuki said. It doesn't matter, I'll kill you and hide the scroll. They'll believe you stole it and escaped with it. I'll get it later and disappear. Nice, but don't you think you forgot one tiny detail in that plan? What detail? Mizuki scowled, pulling out his kunai. What makes you so sure you'll manage to kill me? Naruto asked as he drew his own kunai. Mizuki grinned viciously. Funny, very funny, Uzumaki. I can beat dozens of you anytime I want. He lunged at Naruto, who sidestepped and kicked at the back of his knee. Mizuki leapt ahead and twisted, landing face to face with Naruto again. Nice try, brat, but I'm not playing games anymore. Die. Mizuki blurred and flashed close to Naruto and swung quickly. Naruto dodged the blade, but he received a few shallow cuts on shoulders and left cheek. Mizuki kicked at his sternum and Naruto flew back coughing blood. Mizuki appeared in front of him and grinned. Did you really believe you were up to my level, kid? I hate you brats, you have no idea what is really out there in the real world. Goodbye, demon brat. He dashed low, ready to plunge his kunai in Naruto's head, but Naruto moved impossibly fast and extended his hand, sending another kunai out of his sleeve, and it struck Mizuki's eyes so hard it threw the traitorous Chunin on his back. Idiot, Naruto growled, I had to make it look like self-defense. I could have killed you in 1 second. Stupid Chunin, thinking he was something special. Let's finish this show. Naruto created 2 shadow clones who gathered Mizuki's corpse, and he took the forbidden scroll. It was time to face the Sandaime and convince him of his story. Halt, in the name of Sandaime Hokage. Someone shouted at Naruto and his clones as they were walking through the forest near populated zone. He was on his way to Sandame's office in Hokage's tower. It was one lone Anbu, a member of the elite force directly answerable to Hokage. They were the best in the village who performed on regular basis missions of the highest importance and risk. In short, they were black ops who did whatever was asked of. Identities were kept secret for plausible deniability and to protect them later on when they quit. To make the clear picture of their job, it was enough to say that they were Hokage's personal genies in the lamp. He would say this or that had to be done and they would go at it until it was done. No matter the risk or their survival. Every village had their version of such elite organizations. And the members were utterly loyal to their cage. Naruto probed this one with the force and relaxed. He wasn't one of Danzo's root agents. Danzo, fully named Shimura Danzo, was a powerful figure in Konoha's military and political structure, and his influence was significant. He had many backers, secret and open, who agreed with his attitude that Konoha was too soft and peaceful for a hidden village. Danzo believed in war and power as means of security and prosperity. He also disliked emotional subordinates. He was of the thought that all ninja were just tools who served their purpose and that emotion was just a weakness for them. He was willing to do anything to accomplish his goal of powerful and prosperous Konoha with ninjas who were elites and unflinchingly loyal. During the previous war, he formed and led a secret branch of Anbu, the Root. Its mandate was to weaken Konoha's enemies and sabotage them. Also, it was supposed to be the ultimate weapon with suicidally loyal agents. Near the end of the last war, Konoha was winning and Danzo's project was officially terminated. But just on the surface, because Danzo managed to keep his agents active but in secret, totally off the record, and he spread his network slowly. He commanded his own private section of Anbu who were mixed with regular Anbu, and he was using them as he saw fit. And that included sending them on unsanctioned missions against any perceived threat to Konoha. In his years at the head of the Root Division, Danzo has managed to stop many conflicts and threats. In fact, he was keeping the balance of forces in the world. He operated thinking that his aged former friend Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sandame Hokage, was unaware of all that. It was a lie. Sarutobi knew that his old friend was running his Root Corps around under his nose, but he chose to let him get away with it as long as he was keeping low profile and didn't try to betray the village. Naruto knew all these things because his master liked to snoop around and observe the village when he wasn't teaching him. Darth Avaris was the perfect spy. And Naruto knew identities of Root agents by simply searching for their loyalty seals drawn on their tongues. Danzo gave them to every Root member so they couldn't talk about Root or him no matter how much they wanted to. Anbu-san, I have the scroll. I was going to return it to the old man Hokage. Naruto explained when the masked ninja landed in front of him. His mask was polished wood and ceramic melded together, forming a very resistant material. It was owl-shaped, so his codename was Owl probably. And what's with the corpse of the Chunin? If I'm not mistaken, he is one of the academy teachers. Owl said, still suspicious. Naruto nodded and started to send waves of trust through the force to calm him down. That's right, Anbu-san, he is Toji Mizuki, my former instructor at the academy. He was the one who told me to steal the scroll and showed me exactly how to bypass the security systems around it. He tried to kill me when he came to meet me at his cottage. I had to defend myself. You stole the scroll? Why did you listen to that suggestion from him? He said it was the real Genin exam and I had no reason to suspect he was lying. I mean, it was kinda easy to pass the one we had that day. Naruto explained. There was no real exam, wasn't it? There is one actually, but that is given by your future Junin sensei. Alright, I believe you, Uzumaki. I'm taking you straight to the Hokage via Shunshin no Jutsu. I think you should not be seen tonight by anyone but me or my colleagues. Wait until my team arrives to take Mizuki's body. 15 minutes later, Naruto was in Sarutobi's office with Owl. Sandame took the scroll from Naruto and set it down next to his chair. Thank you, Owl, you may leave. Sandame said, and the Anbu agent disappeared through the floor via some sinking through stone jutsu. I'm in trouble, old man, aren't I? Naruto said as he stood in front of the only man he respected genuinely. Sarutobi was the only person he remembered that was always kind to him. In the last few years their contacts were less frequent, but it was necessary. The old man was always busy and Naruto had his own training to do. But he always got his birthday presents from the aged leader, which meant a lot to him despite everything he believed about Konoha. I don't think so, Naruto. Sandame smiled as he lit his trusted old pipe. You did return the scroll after all, and that proves you were just set up by Mizuki. Don't worry, my men will confirm your words. I shouldn't have trusted him, he was always weird. How? He was always smiling and good-natured with everyone. But that's why I suspected him. I mean, he was even nice to me, and that was weird. Even Iruka-sensei hated me at first. I see. So tell me what happened, all of it in order. It would give me valuable evidence for further investigation. Naruto nodded. Sure. Mizuki-sensei came today after the exam to my place and told me that there was the real exam. He gave me the scroll with instructions how to get it without being seen and how to disarm those security seals around it. Quote. Strange, Sandame frowned. A man of his rank couldn't have known about those seals and how to disarm them. They were my personal designs. I don't know how he got them, someone must have told him. Naruto said and shrugged. Sandame on the other hand had a very good idea. Anyway, we met at the cottage and he was all nice until he told me about your little law about me. Sandame froze for a second, then sagged in the chair, feeling the guilt. So you know of your burden? Naruto nodded, his eyes were steel. I wasn't too happy to learn I was being hated for something I wasn't responsible in the first place. And more than that, you lied to me my whole life. Were you ever going to tell me? I was, after you became Chunin. It sounded weak and Naruto snorted. Sandame sighed sadly. I'm sorry Naruto, I was just trying to give you a normal childhood. You were just a baby and no one could expect a child to be able to handle that knowledge. The law I made was to give you the chance with your generation since it was obvious that the adults were quite against you. It didn't work, did it? Naruto was bitter. Well, he wasn't really, but one had to keep up pretenses. Someone might find it tad strange if he took the news calmly. I'm sorry my boy. I tried my best, but even I can't make people love someone just like that. No one can. I know old man, I do. It wasn't about being loved, you know. I just hated being ignored and bullied for no apparent reason. They all glared at me and shunned me as soon as they saw me. Like I was disease they feared. In time things will be better, trust me Naruto. Sandame said with much hope and conviction in his voice. Maybe, we'll see. Naruto appeared undecided, but it was enough to Sandame, who smiled gently. It will be better, just wait and see. Can I finish my report? I'm getting sick at your sweet mushy words. Naruto said in an annoyed tone that made Sandame chuckle. As I said, Mizuki-sensei attempted to kill me and we fought. He was quite strong and fast, but he made one error in his plan. What was it? Naruto grinned wide. He forgot I could read the scroll after disabling all those seals on it. I learned Shadow Clone no Jutsu and it saved my ass tonight. You did that in just one night? Sandame was shocked. Hey, in just an hour or two actually. Sandame stared at the blonde in amazement. He knew Naruto was capable, but that was brilliant. To be able to master a Jonin-rank jutsu in just 2 hours, well, that was on the level of genius he didn't see since Orochimaru was his student. Tell me Naruto, did you happen to read more than one jutsu? Sandame was ready to eat his hat if Naruto didn't. You know me too well old man. I did read several of them, but most were too complicated to memorize or to even understand quickly. That's why I just memorized exploding clone jutsu, but there was no description of the shadow shuriken technique. It was just mentioned there. I know, it's not as chakra intensive as those two you know. Sandame said, you did well not to mess with the rest of the jutsu, they are forbidden for a reason. Since you've shown some prudence on that matter, I'll give you instructions how to perform the shadow shuriken jutsu. Is that all right? That's just fine old man. Naruto was happy. Tell me the rest of the story Naruto. Okay, as I was saying, Mizuki-sensei was really strong, but he was caught off guard when I summoned some shadow clones. He got me on the ground and tried to stab me in the head, but one of my clones jumped him and gave me a chance to kill him first. I got him with my kunai in the eye. He was dead instantly. You don't seem to regret what occurred. Sandame stated, feeling half worried. I had my moment of freaking out in the forest old man, Naruto stated coolly. But I don't regret saving myself. I never will. He was a traitor and he tried to kill me. Of course Naruto, I was just worried for your sake. It can't have been easy to discover all those things and stay calm. Yeah, well I stayed cool all my life and I'm not about to change now. I've got my whole life ahead, I will not waste it crying about what happened. I got to learn from my mistakes and move on. Sarutobi nodded, admiring Naruto's tenacity. That boy never cried about his life and never complained. He just went forward, stubbornly refusing to back down when things became difficult, which was always in his case. It was a trait both of his parents shared. "All right Naruto, you go home and I'll settle this matter," Sarutobi said and watched Naruto go. As soon as he was gone, Owl rose from the floor like a ghost. Sarutobi stared at his agent hard. "Follow him and make sure nothing untoward's happened to him, or I'll be most displeased. Report to me only if he does something strange." "Is he still a suspect of foul play then?" "Hardly, I'm just worried he might do something rash in his state. He just discovered the truth about Kyuubi and himself. And his teacher tried to kill him. He might seem fine for now, but he could snap any moment. But if he stays calm until dawn, he'll probably be just fine. Hi Hokage-sama, if I may say so, he's one tough brat." Quote, "I thought you didn't like him," Sarutobi said in surprise. I'm just saying he is strong. But I still think he is just trouble waiting to happen." "Maybe, but he is our creation Owl-san and we have to bear it. Naruto is a victim here, he was never given a choice in his life." Owl just bowed and sunk in the floor again. Sarutobi just shook his head in amusement. Owl always did that when he couldn't win an argument. "Naruto, move out of that seat." Sakura screeched angrily at the young Sith apprentice, completely unaware of the fact she was ordering around maybe the most deadly person alive. Luckily for her, Naruto wasn't offended, since something so trivial like pink-haired Sasuke fangirl didn't even register on his list of people who mattered. Very few did actually. He glanced at stiff Sasuke and smirked evilly. "Sure Haruno, I'm moving already," he drawled, enjoying Sasuke's growing horror as his fangirls, the worst of them being Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura, surrounded his position in all-out fight for the seat next to him. Naruto found a new place to sit at, next to Shikamaru Nara. Shikamaru was currently not asleep, he just sat in his chair with the expression of utter boredom. Which wasn't strange, Shikamaru was so smart that everything was boring to him except sleeping, playing shogi or watching clouds. "Wasn't that cruel, Uzumaki?" he asked Naruto, who was still smirking. "Nah, the Uchiha deserves all the attention he can get, his ego can stand anything." "Troublesome, that's what you and he are." "Really? I'm sure you won't do a thing about it." Shikamaru just shook his head. They both looked at Iruka, who used his big head jutsu to scare away Sasuke's fans. Sasuke glared at Naruto, promising retribution, and Naruto just chuckled in turn. "All right everyone, again I congratulate you on graduating from the academy. You are now real ninjas of this village and this isn't training anymore. Remember what you learned and you'll be fine. I expect you to do your duties with utmost diligence and not to dishonor your village. From now on you'll be placed in teams of 3 under the tutelage of your Junin sensei. Team 1 is Akihara Rei, Sumiru Toki." Iruka begun droning as Sasuke's fans awaited who among them will end up on his squad. There were a lot of possibilities. Team 7 under Junin Hitaki Kakashi, Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke. Iruka winced as the little banshee screamed in victory, and Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka paled as he was hit by a feeling of utter dread and he saw Naruto's cold stare. He swallowed a lump in his throat and continued shakily to announce other teams. He hoped Naruto didn't consider him responsible for his placement. It was Hokage's decision in the end. An hour passed since Jonin senseis came and picked up their future students. Naruto was pretty pissed off at being placed in the same cell as Sasuke and Sakura. He didn't like them and the feeling was mutual. The only person who was happy to be on Team 7 was Sakura, since it was her dream to end up together with Sasuke. Sasuke was clearly unhappy for being saddled with 2 burdens. Like usual, he thought he was the only one who mattered and that he could do everything and everyone else was just insignificant in comparison with his Uchiha tragedy and life. Naruto was amused by his irritation caused by Sakura's fawning and hopeful attempts to gain his attention. The girl was persistent if nothing else. Finally he got fed up with them, their no-show Jonin sensei, and he was hungry. He started to walk away. "What are you doing, Naruto?" Sakura asked in surprise. "I'm leaving, it's obvious our sensei isn't going to show up." "You can't go," she screeched. "Watch me." Naruto waved and disappeared through the door after dropping a smoke bomb. Sasuke and Sakura just stared in shock. "Sasuke-kun, what do we do?" Sakura asked, feeling very scared. Her parents always warned her not to mix up with Naruto. He was trouble, they said. It seemed they were right. Sasuke sat down and assumed his cool sitting pose. He knew it was cool, he practiced in front of his mirrors. Who cares what that moron does, as long as he doesn't get in my way? Sasuke was so cool. Sakura blushed and smiled coyly. 2 hours later, Sakura was silent and slouched in her chair. Sasuke still looked cool and so Uchiha-like. They perked up as the door to their classroom slid open. A man entered. They were surprised by his appearance. He was slouched and had gravity-defying silver hair. But the rest of him was covered by clothes. He wore gloves with cut-of fingers, a standard Junin vest over black long-sleeved shirt, black pants and sandals. His face was mostly covered by the black basque and his left eye was hidden below a wide headband that was slanted for that purpose. He looked weird, especially with that small red book in his left hand. "You're Team 7? My first impression of you. Where's the third member of your team?" Sakura wanted to die of shame. Her first meeting with Sensei was ruined. He was sure to be mad at them for letting Naruto go. Sasuke on the other hand just scowled before deigning to explain what happened. "He left some time ago, he was convinced you wouldn't come." Huh? Kakashi was surprised. It was the first time that someone decided not to wait on him. That was different. Then he watched with mild amusement as his students to be fidgeted slightly as he was thinking. It gave him an idea. He was genius. "All right, I suppose it has to be this way. I'm going to give you a test to see if you're worthy of being my students." "What?" Sakura asked in shock, much to Kakashi's amusement. "Did you really think that to be genin you only had to make some bunchin?" Both genin frowned, realizing what was being said. The academy was just checking out their grasp on basics of being ninja, obviously. Kakashi chuckled loudly as he saw them make the connection. "You see, only we Junin senseis can decide if one is fit to be a ninja. Since your third man is gone and you can't become my students without him, this is your test. Find Uzumaki Naruto. Make sure he is with you too on top of this building in 3 hours. I don't care how, but all 3 of you must be there within 3 hours or you fail my test and can go back to the academy for another year of test begins now." He chuckled as they tore out of the room and slowly went to the roof. This was great, he was getting rid of another team of annoying kids. Sasuke and Sakura were already on one of the numerous roofs of the village trying to spot Naruto. Sasuke was fairly pissed at the blonde kid. Who was he to stand in his way? In all honesty, Sasuke didn't know a thing about Naruto. Oh, they did know each other, but nothing beyond casual contacts during their classes. To Sasuke, Naruto was just another run-of-the-mill clanless kid who wouldn't amount to much as ninja. While he was the last Uchiha, one of the elite who were born and bred for this. He had to become a genin. He needed to learn all things to advance in ranks and power so he could achieve his true goal to kill that man. And Naruto was jeopardizing that, which was unforgivable. "Where is he?" Sasuke muttered and Sakura heard it. "He could be anywhere, Sasuke-kun. But I know he likes to eat at Ichiraku's ramen stand. Maybe we can gather more information there? It's worth a try." Sasuke agreed after thinking about it. "Let's go." They were at the stand 10 minutes later. It was just another food stand like many others in Konoha, but the Ichiraku's was known for its good ramen, so it was always busy. The owner was a man in his late 40s or early 50s, wearing white cook's clothing, and he had 2 helpers and his daughter who was the waitress when she didn't cook. There were 2 older ninjas who ate their food quickly and vanished after paying for it. "Welcome to the Ichiraku's, my name is Ayame. What can I get you?" Ichiraku's daughter said with warm smile. She was 15 and already a beautiful girl with light blonde hair. "We'd like to know where can we find Uzumaki Naruto?" Sasuke said, preferring to be direct. "Naruto-kun?" Ayame asked in surprise. "Why?" Sakura smiled hesitatingly. "Well, our sensei wants us to find him. It's just a test for us. Naruto is our teammate." "Oh, I see. Well, you could try at his home. He lives in the apartment in the Ichioi sector. You know it?" Ichioi was one of those poorer districts in Konoha, and a lot of ninjas who were single lived there. It was cheap, simple but not safe. Many regular civilians tended to avoid the zone since hardier elements of society gravitated there. It was normal for any civilized settlement to have bad zones. "We do. Do you know any other places?" Sasuke asked. "Not really." Ayame smiled apologetically, bowing to the Uchiha. "I'm afraid Naruto-kun is very private person." He likes to eat here, but he doesn't come as often as he used to. He's had a hard life, so he doesn't trust people like he used to. Sakura was curious now. I can't imagine him as a different person, Ayame-san. He's always so detached. Sasuke finished for her. That was the best way to describe Naruto. Oh, he smiled at times and made jokes, did his homework and studying, just like everyone else. But he always seemed untroubled by anything, even by some teachers who openly disliked him for some reason. Naruto never got angry or insulted. He was like water, always somehow shifting around everything and staying untouched. At times when he thought about it, which was very rarely, Sasuke was creeped out by it. It reminded him somewhat of that man. I understand what you mean. Ayame said sadly. You should have seen him years ago. He was so vibrant, loud and caring. He used to wear orange, it was his favorite color in the world. He stopped when he started the academy. Now he's a shadow of his former self. I guess living alone for so long without friends or family got to him in the end. Is there any other place we could try? Sakura tried to get some more information. I don't know, perhaps he still goes to the Hokage mountain. He always liked to sit on Yondaime's head. Yondaime was his hero, you know. Sasuke saw this was it concerning Naruto. He bowed politely and walked away with Sakura in tow. Sakura, you go and check his apartment. I'll go to the mountain since I'm faster. We'll meet at the Hokage's tower in 30 minutes tops. It was fruitless. Naruto was simply gone. They tried a wide search across the village using rooftops as vantage points from which they scanned crowds and places hoping to catch the sight of Naruto's distinct blonde hair. It was useless. Finally both of the genin returned to the academy and wearily walked to its roof where their not going to be sensei was waiting with his face buried in that little red book. Sasuke was swearing to beat Naruto to the death. Sakura was resigned to her fate. Kakashi smiled to himself as he saw those two walk in front of him. Well, you're back. Let's see. In 10 minutes you and I will part our ways. Sasuke glared at Kakashi and Sakura fell on her ass in dejection. There goes her future with Sasuke-kun. Hey, what's going on? Naruto's voice echoed around the trio and Kakashi swore inwardly. So close to another year of brat-free life. Sasuke glared at Naruto but was elated because he was a genin now. Sakura moaned in relief, love was on her side. Kakashi put his box away resigned to his fate. He should have known when Sandame smirked at him this morning. Welcome to our first team meeting, Uzumaki. All of you sit. Since we're officially a team, let's get to know each other. When they did, Sakura asked what were they supposed to say. Kakashi suppressed another sigh. He had a teacher's pet on his team. Just say your names, your likes and dislikes, hobbies and dreams for the future. Quote, you should start then, sensei, Naruto said. We already know each other a bit. Alright, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I have likes and few dislikes and my hobbies aren't your business. My dreams. Well, that's not for young kids to hear. Hi. Kakashi finished his intro with perverted giggle. His dream was to collect every Icha story and then when there were no more he would travel the world trying to reenact all those beautiful graphic scenes one at a time. Okay, maybe two at once, but no more, he was only human. Unfortunately Naruto could sense his thoughts since they were so vivid and strong. Poor young Sith had to apply tremendous mental discipline not to make a sound of disgust. He may be a Sith, but he was still a kid with little to no drive. The girls were still somewhat non-interesting for Naruto, at least in that way. Kakashi stopped his creepy laugh and nodded at Sakura to start her introduction. You next, Pinky. Sakura scowled at her nickname, but she obeyed. I am Haruno Sakura and I'm 12. I like. She blushed while looking at Sasuke and giggled to Kakashi's sorrow. A fangirl. My dream is too. Another giggle, much more like Kakashi's this time. Sasuke shivered, resisting the sudden urge to leave and buy an iron underwear with high-level combination lock. Sakura took hold of herself. I hate Ino, Pig and Naruto. Okay. Kakashi drawled as if speaking to mentally unstable person. He looked at Naruto who got the hint and cleared his throat. KHM, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, training and being left alone. I dislike fools, hypocrites and those who think of themselves too highly. My dream is to become the best ninja I can become. Kakashi blinked. Well, at least one student was remotely sane. He looked at the Uchiha boy with something akin to regret and pity. Sasuke reminded him too much of himself. Sasuke took the hint as well. My name is Uchiha Sasuke and I don't like many things or dislike them either. I do have a dream, know an ambition to revive my clan and kill a certain man. His voice was dark and cold, filled with determination that made Kakashi wince. Sasuke was clearly bent on revenge, which wasn't good for him or anyone else. Alright, you're all interesting individuals. We'll start doing our missions tomorrow, so get a good night's sleep and meet me tomorrow at 7 before the mission center. Dismissed. Kakashi didn't wait for them to leave. He vanished immediately with a puff of smoke from his shunshin. It looked like teleported away, but that was just an illusion. In fact, the shunshin made the user to move so fast that it seemed instantaneous. But it required lots of chakra and stamina to endure the stress of rapid movements. Also, if you messed it up, you could hurl yourself in the wall or some big tree and that would hurt a lot. That's why it was Junin level jutsu. I have to learn that trick, Naruto said with large grin and run away, leaving Sasuke to deal with his annoying groupie. It was evening and sun just went down, letting a blanket of the night to cover the village. Stars danced and twinkled in the sky and the moon shone pale silvery rays, providing sufficient light for Naruto to see as it were daytime. He was on the way home after a satisfactory day. He passed an exam without even knowing about it and it made him snicker. That Kakashi guy was obviously terrified of having some kids in his care. The guy was powerful, probably one of the best in the village, Naruto suspected. The old man Hokage wouldn't let just anyone take on the Uchiha and him. But he somehow doubted Kakashi's teaching skills. Just because someone knew things, it didn't mean they knew how to impart that knowledge onto others. Kakashi just seemed too weird, too relaxed to be effective disciplinarian and teacher. Maybe he was one of those figure-it-yourself guys with their cryptic guidelines and suggestions. Naruto could live with that. Hey Dobi, Sasuke hissed when he emerged from the side alley looking very angry. He felt that way to seize Naruto clearly through the force. Sasuke was livid and he wanted to take it out on Naruto. Your stupid disappearing act today almost cost me my promotion. I want to make sure you never try that shit again. You'll do as I say and you won't stand in my way. I have important things to do and shits like you and Sakura are just burdens I don't need. Ooh, I'm so shaking in fear of the mighty Uchiha-sama. Naruto mocked with wide happy grin. And what can you do to me if I decide to do as I like? Sumida-sensei? Sasuke smiled coldly. He was so full of himself. No, I'll just have to teach you a hard lesson about pissing off an Uchiha. We were bred to be warriors. You clanless idiots don't know a thing about being a ninja. Naruto almost laughed in his face. Warriors? Sasuke obviously had some skewed picture of what ninjas were supposed to be. But he had just the right thing to say. I am clanless? Strange thing to say for someone whose mighty clan was obliterated in one night, like they were the weakest ninja in the whole history. Sasuke lost it and attacked with fury that made him boil. His fists lashed and only long training and muscle memory kept his attacks coordinated and focused. Naruto found his attacks slow and he could see them before they even started. It was child's play to dodge or slap kicks and punches aside. Sasuke made one big mistake. He allowed Naruto to block his left kick with forearm and tried to use it as a leverage for his jump and right kick to his head. He was very athletic and nimble and this combo worked very well against most of his opponents at the academy. But Naruto wasn't one of them. He moved with snake-like speed and closed in on Sasuke and grabbed his neck. Sasuke choked because Naruto's hand squeezed like it was made of steel and his back exploded in pain that made him lose strength and see lights in his vision as he was slammed in the wall. He didn't even see a kick that bowled him in fetal position and the other positively bruised his ribs. Naruto kept on pounding away until Sasuke went limp. He made sure not to mark his face. This I hope is a lesson you won't forget, Uchiha. Naruto hissed coldly at barely conscious Sasuke. Nobody gives orders to me, especially not some asshole with delusions of grandeur. You're weak and arrogant moron who has been hearing praises about his greatness his whole life. I know of at least 2 more guys in our age bracket who could have done this to you even easier than me. You think you train hard? You make me laugh. I'm stronger, faster and have more stamina than you ever will. Just because you are an Uchiha it doesn't make you anything special. Hell, it's not even sure you will awaken your bloodline. So you better stop high-nosing and take this seriously. You're not the center of the universe and your life isn't something others will care too much about. I had tough life too, but you don't see me go around and think I'm better than everyone else. If you ever try to attack me again without permission or justified reason, I'll take one of your eyes. Sharingan or not, consider yourself warned. I won't be merciful, be assured. Sasuke could only wheeze in pain as he listened to Naruto's footsteps. He couldn't believe he was defeated so easily. That bastard had the gall to lecture him even as if he was someone lower than him. And then he just walked away. It was all just like with him. He was going to teach Uzumaki Naruto a lesson one of these days. Nobody underestimated the power of the Uchiha blood and got away with it. Alright, let's see. Sarutobi said as he started to look through his papers in search of the next mission for Team 7. They were on duty 2 months already and they weren't happy. It turned out that their job was to do D-rank missions, which were just glorified housekeeping jobs like babysitting, grocery shopping, painting fences and so on. As Kakashi happily explained, these D-ranks were meant to improve their teamwork by letting them to know each other better. Not one of his pupils cared to do exactly that, so it wasn't really working. Naruto didn't care either way and Sasuke's pride made him loathe the blonde with passion and Sakura followed his lead like a good fangirl. Kakashi did suspect something happened between Naruto and Sasuke, considering Sasuke's pained face on their first day of being officially on duty. Sasuke just brushed him off saying he felt badly the night before. Whatever happened, Sasuke wasn't willing to talk about it, so Kakashi let it pass, but he did observe how his team worked. Mostly it was Sasuke who led with his fan in tow, and Naruto seemed indifferent. He just agreed with Sasuke and smiled, like he knew a joke and the others were victims of it. Kakashi wasn't really interested as long as he was doing his job. One of the worst jobs for genins was to hunt down the cat named Tora. It belonged to the wife of their local lord and she was the devil incarnate. The cat would always run from her owner and it knew how to hide and run. Some genins swore she could use chakra. For Team 7 it was not so, somehow Naruto would always track the beast and catch her. Tora was very obedient when Naruto was around. Nobody knew why. It was simple for him to use the force to track the animal, seize control of her and give her orders to be nice, or else. And it worked each time. After a while Tora learned that Naruto would always find her, so she stopped running so much. She was one smart cat. Better to suffer in hands of her mistress than to face the scary genin who threatened to flay her on the inside with just one look. That evil eye he gave her made her shudder at nights. Ah, I found one. How about walking some dogs? Sarutobi said, knowing Naruto wasn't very liked by clients, but animals seemed to be quite tame in his presence. Maybe they sensed the fox somehow and knew he was the boss. Naruto pursed his lips in thoughtful manner. I don't know, old man. I heard that Team 10 was sent on their first C rank yesterday. Could we get one? Naruto, Iruka said from his position next to the aged Hokage. Hokage-sama decides when you can go on a C rank, not you. There is a good reason it is done this way. Be respectful. We're more than ready. Sasuke said, not because he supported Naruto. He just didn't think it was good for him to do these chores while some fat ass like Choji got his first C rank. No way, he was an Uchiha. Yeah, Sakura piped up, automatically agreeing with her idol. She was really well trained that way. The years of habit coached her to agree with Sasuke without even thinking. Kakashi grimaced below his mask. That girl needed a hard dose of reality, pronto. She was the reason he was holding back 2 powerful genin from any serious jobs. But he saw now it was inevitable. Either Sakura would come to her senses or she would get her team killed someday unless he booted her of the team. Which was still an option. I think my team needs a mission better suited to their skills, Hokage-sama. I'd like to request a hunt. Sarutobi raised his eyebrows high, and Iruka looked a little shocked. The so-called hunt was a mission reserved for fresh genin to have their first taste of blood and killing. Usually it was reserved for the first-generation shinobis, because those from old ninja families and clans were too well trained to falter on such a mission anyway. Sakura definitively needed to see whether she can kill or not. The hunt usually involved tracking down bandits and destroying them utterly. Although the Fire Country had its own armies and police forces, the bandit problem was rampant in less populated areas. There was too much space to cover and protect. but they mostly did manage to reduce the problem. And some cases were always left for Fire's ninjas to deal with, just for this purpose. Sarutobi saw Kakashi glance at Sakura and understood his problem. The girl was visibly weak, with her too thin frame and non-developed musculature. She was very smart, but that was useless without practical experience. Tsunade of that age was quite different, but she was the granddaughter of the greatest ninja of modern age. Haruno Sakura was a civilian with low chakra level, without proper mental attitude and whatnot. He was in agreement with young Hitaki the girl had to show spine or she was going to be dropped from the core. So he took a special scroll and handed it to Kakashi. Here it is Kakashi, and good luck. Was that really necessary, Hokage-sama? Iruka asked when Team 7 was gone. He was reluctant to spoil their youth. I'm afraid so, Iruka. Young Haruno is showing a disturbing lack of fortitude. This is her final chance. I see. Iruka bowed his head in shame. She was his student and therefore his mistake. No need to do that, Iruka. Nobody questions your teaching skills. You've done your best and sometimes it just isn't enough. Trust me, I know. Sarutobi said with gentle smile to Iruka, who bowed again. Arigato, Hokage-sama. Team 7 was crouched in the darkness while observing their targets. The bandit camp was set about 800 meters away at the bottom of the small valley between high hills. Team 7 was tracking them for the last 3 days through the wilderness. Kakashi taught them a lot of tracking tricks, many of which weren't taught at the academy. Like how to tell if the prey moved fast or slow, how much weight caused such and such tracks, which in turn told them if the target was male or female, or if he was armored, and so on. There were about 30 heavily armed bandits in the camp and they were smart. In distance several fires were glowing, which meant widespread formation to avoid being caught en masse. Also, it made difficult to count their exact number. Kakashi evaluated the situation and already cited the best way to deal with these vermin. But this was a mission to let his pupils show what they were made of. Any thoughts? Sasuke shrugged. There's about 30 thugs. We can take them, but the horses are problem, they have to be dealt with beforehand. We don't want to let them escape. Kakashi nodded. Sasuke was right on point. He eyed Naruto, who looked just as unconcerned as Sasuke. Sakura looked nervous. She really wasn't expecting to start killing so soon. Kakashi sighed internally. He felt sorry for the girl, but it had to be done. Kami forgive him, but this was it. The girl joined Ninja Corps of Konoha for wrong reasons. Now it was time to see if she could really do what has to be done. So what's the plan? Come on, show me some brains, you three. Kakashi egged the trio. We can do 2 things, Naruto said. Either we kill them in one massive assault or we make them run and pick them off one by one from ambushes. Personally, I prefer the second option. It's not like we have to risk ourselves unnecessarily. Good idea, Naruto. Kakashi said approvingly. He looked at the rest of the team. Anyone against that? Sasuke just HNED as usual and Sakura nodded in agreement. Kakashi was pleased. They were cautious. Okay, Naruto, what's the next step after we get rid of the horses? I could send a group of my clones to make them run and scatter. You guys can take your shots as you want and stay hidden as much as possible. They will run and we will follow. Sooner or later we will win by sheer stamina advantage. All right, you know the deal. Take care of the guards and then chase the horses away. Naruto will raise a small group of clones to start the fights and you two will kill as many bandits as possible while staying hidden. Let's go. Team 7 slunk off in the way where their targets sat, unaware of the impending death and pain. Sasuke crawled on his fingertips and toes, his body paralleled to ground, invisible and silent as shadow. He was calm, he knew his job and was confident of his success. He already selected his targets and knew exactly what to do with them. A few well-placed shuriken would suffice. Sakura moved silently around the south side of the valley until she reached the high rock, from where she observed her targets, a group of 3 guards loosely positioned on the rocky slope below. Their job was to spot anyone trying to sneak up from south, and to prevent their horses from wandering away. Sakura swallowed spit and she felt the bile rise in her throat. She gagged slightly as her palms started to sweat, her hands shook as she prepared for the attack. 3 kunai in each hand, held by the rings on their handles. They were a gift from her mother for graduating at the top of the class. Her family wasn't too keen on her chosen occupation, but they were proud to have one Haruno clan member in the ninja corps. Every clan or family considered it a mark of honor to produce another ninja for their glorious Konoha. Sakura was suddenly very much aware what this glory and honor were, blood and flesh gouged away by her thin, innocent hands and sharp eyes that were now moist. But she wasn't stupid, not when she was alone and not trying to impress Sasuke-kun. This was her test, either she could do her job or not. She envied both boys on her squad, they were so calm and professional. She and Ino had a promise between each other as kunoichis not to let boys outshine them. But most of all, she didn't want to see Sasuke's sneer when he realized she wasn't strong enough. Her hands clenched and relaxed, just as she was taught by Iruka-sensei. She forgot about the targets and her feelings, only breathing mattered. She waited, slowly inhaling and exhaling. And when the noise started far away, her hands snapped automatically. She closed her eyes as she waited for the sign of alarm from below. Nothing came, just the sound of horses whining and galloping. She peered down and saw 3 shadows lying still in the grass. She struck home, just like in the academy. Funnily enough, Sakura thought only one thing at the moment: Iruka-sensei would have been proud of her marksmanship. She waited for the noise to start. Soon enough, there would be more targets. Tears trickled as she drew more kunai. Sakura's eyes were trying to catch everything in their sight as Team 7 was walking towards the office building where Anyagato's mayor was residing. Anyagato was a mid-sized city in the northwestern region of the Fire Country. It sat on the crossroads of 2 rivers, and so it became one of more important trade spots and ports. Merchants owned much of the city and trade was good, thus the whole region prospered. But like every major city, even Anyagato had its bad side. Its prosperity attracted crime. But legal and illegal citizens coexisted just fine. There was more than enough wealth to be quietly spread between them. While regular folk took care of public and legal venues, the criminal world took care of gambling, red lights districts, massage parlors and so on. Nobody made excesses to draw the attention of the fire's authorities. Until now, someone had crossed the line and the mayor had to call for discreet help. That's where Team 7 came in. In case of suspicious activity amongst fire's officials, only loyal ninjas were trusted to investigate. The matter was brought to Team 7's attention via courier animal in the local city, where they took pay for the finished mission. They were the closest team available. It seemed that somebody thought it would be nice to kidnap young women from streets of Anyagato so they could be sold as slaves. Not in the Fire Country, where such a thing was a capital offense, not because of civilization of the land, but simply because lords of the land couldn't ensure that people wouldn't rebel if such practice was allowed, but somewhere else. Kakashi led his pupils across rooftops of the city, silently and invisibly to the civilian population. They saw the mayor in his office from the adjacent building's roof. He was expecting them, so he wasn't surprised when 4 ninjas with Konoha's headband appeared in a large cloud of smoke. Finally, Mayor Ofudake said with relief. He was tall, thin man with gray beard and bald skull. His skin was still smooth, despite the obvious advanced age. I've been waiting for some time. Have you now? Kakashi spoke in neutral voice. Yes. Ofuda nodded sharply, not bothering to ask about his company. He didn't need to know the identity of Fire's ninjas. He would forget them as soon as possible if he valued his career and position. Ninjas were sort of untouchable when it came to these matters. They were, after all, Fire Lord's extended arm. We are informed about the situation here, Kakashi explained. We're here out of formal courtesy. And to warn you that we will be using any means available to resolve this situation. Ofuda swallowed. He understood that Morgue might be lacking storage capacity in the next few days. Oh well, it had to happen sometime. Chief Mortician will have to be creative. And silent. When Team 7 left the office, back on the rooftop they came from, Kakashi eyed his students. Well, any smart ideas? Sakura hesitated a little. We could visit some criminal hangouts to question some people for clues and rumors. That could take a while. Sasuke noted calmly. Also, it would alert the guilty party to our presence. Then we have to go with the bait and capture approach. Naruto said. We can follow these kidnappers to wherever they deliver the victims. Quote, I suppose Sakura is the bait? Kakashi asked unnecessarily. Naruto smiled and Sakura shivered. But she knew she had to be the bait. She was a perfect picture of the kidnapping victim. Naruto was right in the end. Sakura's exotic appearance caught someone's eye very soon. Not even a day after she checked in at the local hotel with Naruto, who played the role of her cousin. And they were good. Sakura didn't even get to scream as rough hands pulled her in the dark alley and stuffed a bag over her head. She smelled a sleeping agent and soon she was down for the count. Sakura was genuinely afraid and it showed in her brief struggle, so her captors weren't suspicious. They moved quickly through the maze that were dark streets and passages of the city, but when a nin dog was on your trail you can't shake him. And Pakun, Kakashi's favorite tracker summon, was able to follow them too easily. Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke frowned as they watched Sakura's kidnappers use the boat to reach a large ship docked at the other end of the local harbor. "Crap, that's a foreign boat, sensei," Naruto said. From the grass country, see the flag?" Kakashi pointed at the green flag on the tallest mast of the vessel. It was a large river boat, nearly as big as one of sea cargo ships. "Aren't they our allies?" Sasuke asked. "They are." Kakashi nodded. "That makes it tricky. We must bust this slave deal. Ally or not, they can't be allowed to get away with this." No wonder that Mayor called for the help. This is international politics. Naruto scoffed. "Of course, we, and he, know where our citizens are, but we can't do anything legally. The ship is protected by peace treaties and its crew decided to take advantage of that. I'm pretty certain that someone on our side started this to earn extra money. That's the only way this vessel could have passed the border without real inspection." Kakashi explained to Naruto and Sasuke. "Are you saying we should let them go?" Sasuke scowled. He wanted blood. "Officially, yes. I'd rather burn the ship." Kakashi said. "We'll let our spies and official people to deal with this. It's not worth starting the war." "Too bad, because I'm pretty sure we could take the crew quickly and save Sakura." "Not that she won't escape by herself," Naruto said. It was true, even Sakura could escape from non-ninja captors easily enough. "What makes you so sure?" Kakashi asked curiously. Naruto grinned. "I know Kage Bunshin and I can make more than 30 clones." Kakashi looked at the ship and chuckled. "Yes, that was another thing entirely. Okay, change of plans. We will swim to the ship and attach ourselves to its hull. Use henge to blend in. When we're far from the city we attack. Kill everyone on board but the captain. I'll make sure he is alive. The rest are expendable." As it was, the ship from the grass moved out at dawn and soon it was going upriver towards the grass country. Kakashi gave the signal 3 hours after the ship started its journey, thus ensuring there would be no witnesses. Sasuke and Naruto had to keep the crew busy while Kakashi took care of the captain, who was certainly the man with the right information. Naruto moved first. He used his kunai to climb up the ship's hull and to get rid of the guard. He leapt over the rail and made a hand seal to create 100 clones. Sasuke and Kakashi didn't need to worry about stealth anymore. A giant of the sailor rushed Naruto, bellowing and waving his saber. He died with a shuriken in his brain. Another 2 suddenly stopped breathing because their lungs couldn't work properly with metal inside. Naruto's clones created a massive combat zone, where bewildered crewmen were defending themselves from the army of blonde boys who vanished when struck once. Still, most of them managed to kill or maim their targets, which was bad for defenders. Half of them were gone in 5 minutes. Naruto himself weaved and dodged attacks and returned them with deadly precision. His ninja flashed like a silver mirage, spraying blood and limbs in its wake. Men screamed or gurgled, depending on their injury. Naruto moved like a ghost, nothing could touch him. He was using the force to see all around him, to predict the danger. He suddenly bent at a slight angle, letting a knife sail past his ear. A little nudge with the force sped up the projectile and bent its trajectory. The knife killed a man in front of Naruto, who replaced himself with a newly made corpse and stabbed a guy next to him in throat. He jumped off his shoulder, made a somersault over the next guy, landed crouched and swung behind himself. He cut that man's legs and grabbed him as he fell. The man made a nice shield form the sword slash of his buddy, who followed Naruto from behind. Naruto turned, stabbed him in the belly and twisted savagely. He let his innards spill out. He used them to blind the new attacker and jump kicked at his head. He broke his neck. He turned quickly and slashed with his blade, deflecting 3 knives in a single move. 2 were sent to stab one of Sasuke's opponents in the back. 1 was flung away in the river. Naruto laughed and flashed at the trio who used those knives. They died quickly, being no match to the young Sith. He paused, his clones were almost exhausted but they took care of the majority of crew. Sasuke was handling his part rather well, so Naruto went on executing the wounded and those his clones missed. He didn't miss. Kakashi emerged with pale Sakura in tow. Naruto noticed blood spattered on their clothes. Obviously they dealt some death too. Not bad, Kakashi said as he surveyed the massacre. He took note that Naruto handled his sword rather well. Sasuke did good too. Did you get your man? Naruto was interested. Kakashi nodded, his eye made that U-shape when closed. He was happy. He was a talkative little fellow. I've gotten the necessary information on this slave business. We're done for now. Legal authorities will deal with the rest of the gang on our side of the border. Sasuke looked around the ship. We can burn this thing now? Kakashi nodded. Go on, practice your Kaiden jutsus. We'll wait with our kidnappies on the coast. The return to Anyagato was a nice cool-down exercise for Team 7. The mayor was happy to hear that there would be no kidnappings anymore and he had a message for Kakashi who grimaced as he read the thing. What's going on, sensei? Sakura asked, now much calmer. She had to kill some men again, but this time she didn't hesitate. They were molesting some of the girls whom they saved. Tem-10 is in trouble. Kakashi said with cool demeanor. Asuma-san is injured. We are to help them if we can get there on time. And we will. Team 7 reached the waves in 3 days. They avoided being seen in case that the attacker who engaged Team 10 had help. They crossed the canal to the waves unseen, swimming quickly and silently. And then it was a quick run through treetops, the so-called ninja road, towards the client's home. Tazuna the bridge builder lived in an isolated beach house made of sturdy wood. It was well built. It faced the sea, and there was a long wooden pier for boats. The house was one-story affair, with large windows and obviously a lot of space. At its back were woods that Team 7 was using to reach the house. Suddenly Kakashi stopped his trek, his students followed the suit. This is Hitaki Kakashi, the leader of Team 7. Show yourself. Kakashi demanded of the unseen guard. Since Asuma was injured, it could only be one of his students. Naruto already knew it was Shikamaru. You are our reinforcement? Shikamaru said as he became visible in the vast array of shadows of the tree he was hiding in. We are, Genin, Kakashi said blandly. Report. Shikamaru nodded. Yes, we were ambushed by the pair of Chunin from the Mist Village. We took care of them, with Sensei's help. That's when we realized that our client was being targeted by the man called Gato. He's really rich and practically owns this country. The client is building a bridge that could break his economic monopoly here, so he decided to make him disappear. Kakashi stared at him. And why did you continue with this mission as it was obviously beyond your current ability? Shikamaru grimaced. I blame Ino for that. She insisted we couldn't let the guy be killed. Choji took her side this time and Asuma-sensei decided that the risk was acceptable. Until we met another ninja, Zabuza of the Seven Swordsmen. Kakashi started at that. Zabuza the devil? And you guys are still alive? Asuma must have fought really good. Who's this Zabuza person? Sasuke asked. He wanted to fight other ninjas, not just some bandits. No one you'd care to meet, Kakashi answered. He's a master swordsman from the Mist Village, the best that there is at silent killing. It is said he was a monster, since he managed to kill the whole graduation class of the Mist Village by himself. And he wasn't even a ninja then. Now he's a nuke nin wanted by the Mist for his attempted coup against the Mizukage. Quote, he is certainly very good, Shikamaru said tensing as he remembered the man. He used his mist jutsu to hide in it, but Asuma-sensei used his wind jutsu to disperse it. But the guy was fast and strong, he almost killed Sensei. Sensei managed to hurt Zabuza too, but Zabuza was saved by some masked person who falsely introduced himself as a mist hunter nin. But he was Zabuza's backup. Interesting, Kakashi mused aloud. That person must be very strong if he's with Zabuza. It's a good thing you called for backup. We should see how Asuma-sensei is. Sakura said with worried expression. Yes, let us Shikamaru. Kakashi ordered to the boy. The first person they encountered in the house was Ino Yamanaka who was eating something from her small bowl. There was an obvious sign of relief on her face as Team 7 entered. You came. Ino jumped to her feet happily smiling. Kakashi-sensei, you're going to help us, right? Of course, Kakashi said. Where are your teammates? Oh, Sensei is up in the room, he is resting. Choji is with Tazuna at the bridge. All right, Kakashi said as he thought quickly. Naruto, go to the bridge with Ino and assist Choji with his duty. Sasuke, join Shikamaru and guard the perimeter. Sakura, help me with the assessment of Asuma's condition. Naruto followed Ino as she was running towards the great structure that was Tazuna's soon-to-be bridge. It was a massive construction of wood and metal, and a lot of people were milling about doing various jobs. But Naruto could sense from far away that they were afraid and desperate, and he knew that some of those wouldn't come back the next day. How bad it is here in this country, Ino? Naruto asked the fellow blonde genin. Ino glanced at Naruto quickly, then sighed. It's bad, Uzumaki. Locals are dead scared of Gato's mercenaries, ever since he had their local hero dismembered publicly. He got away with that? Naruto raised his eyebrows in surprise. Yeah, even the local daimyo hasn't enough power to stop the rich bastard. That's why Tazuna lied about the mission difficulty. They barely scrounged enough money for a C rank. I see. Shika said you were attacked by some Zabuza, a powerful mist nin? Ino shuddered visibly. Don't remind me, he was really nasty person. I almost killed myself when he used his killing intent. Naruto smiled in a friendly way. Hey, your first encounter with an enemy Jonin. I'm not surprised that you were scared. It's only normal. Ino smiled in turn, glad for not being mocked about it. Not gonna happen again. With your sensei around, I don't think Zabuza will win next time. Shika will give him a detailed report on the encounter, and I bet your sensei will be more than ready to take him out. Yeah, you've got a point there. Naruto agreed. They moved closer to the bridge and Ino led the way to Tazuna through the workers who were too busy with their job to notice two kids even if they were ninjas. Tazuna was a tall, strong fellow in late 50s and very much in his element. He was giving orders, directing men to work there and there. He would study his schematics then correct something. He was in his world. But there was a feeling of urgency, fear and hope. All of those mixing together. Naruto knew a desperate man grabbing for the last proverbial straw. Tazuna was definitively on his last legs. Choji suddenly showed up, serious and careful. He still looked corpulent, but it was just a part of his look. He was dangerous in his own way, all Akamichi were. I see our reinforcements have arrived, Ino. Hi Naruto. Choji spoke, attracting Tazuna's attention. Hey little girlie, Tazuna grinned. Who's your friend? I'm not little, Ino growled, although she didn't seem really offended. This is Uzumaki Naruto, a fellow genin. His team has come to help guard you. That's great. Welcome kid. I hope your sensei will be luckier than Asuma-san. Tazuna said, being very sincere. Naruto shrugged. That remains to be seen. My job is to guard you today, so do your job and we'll do ours. Is that all right? Of course. Tazuna replied. He was glad to see someone serious about his work. He turned to his workers and raised his voice. All right men, let's hurry, this bridge won't build itself. So it lasted for the whole day. Choji, Naruto and Ino carefully watched over Tazuna and his crew. Naruto studied the bridge and its surroundings, and concluded that the attack would be a straightforward thing either from one of the ends, or from below. Maybe explosives underneath, that would be the simplest way. He sent a few clones to check, just in case. The return trip was spent in silence, with Choji carrying a load of fish he caught earlier. It was their dinner. This time, Naruto saw Tazuna's family, a boy of 8 or 9 and his mother. She was a pretty 20-something brunette, her face pale and lined with worry. She relaxed immediately as she spotted her father. Father, you're back. How was it today? Not bad, Tsunami-chan, Tazuna grunted as he sat at the kitchen table. My men were braver when they saw more ninjas to protect them. Tsunami smiled. Me too father, Kakashi-san seems very knowledgeable. He gave Asuma-san some medicines, and he is already feeling better. That's great, Ino exclaimed and sprinted on the upper floor to see her teacher. Choji set the fish on the table and followed her. Tsunami grabbed those and smiled to Naruto with apology she had to prepare them for cooking. Her son sullenly went with her. He eyed Naruto with suspicion. Kakashi came downstairs and sat himself too. Yo Naruto, how was it at the bridge? Not bad sensei, Naruto replied. I think that the attack can come only from 3 directions, the ends of the bridge and from below. I was checking for explosives with my clones, and I'll do that every day. Tazuna sat alarmed. Explosives? I didn't think of that. That's why you hired ninjas, Tazuna-san. Kakashi said with smile under his mask. Good thinking, Naruto. Asuma's kids will continue to watch the bridge. You and your team will have to, and Sakura have already begun. I assume that you expect Zabuza to return? Naruto asked, also taking a seat at the table. Yes, his injuries were not that serious. But Asuma-sensei's are. Kakashi sighed. Unfortunately, he won't be able to fight so soon. That's why you need to learn a new chakra control exercise. It's tree walking, isn't it? Kakashi looked at Naruto in surprise. You know about it? Sure, it's something I learned 2 years ago when I saw a genin training to walk on water. It was obvious he was using chakra in his feet to stay afloat. It took me months to figure it out, but I did. That helped me a lot. 2 years ago, Kakashi murmured to himself as he stared at Naruto. The boy who was more than he seemed to be every day. That's good, you'll be protecting Tazuna in pair with Asuma's genin then. Naruto was meditating in the small grove behind Tazuna's house. It was night, warm, and moonlight cast many shadows where Naruto sat still. The force was with him and Naruto knew the world around him intimately, as if it was an extension of his skin. Animals scurried in the dark, plants grew, and people in Tazuna's house either slept or worried about the future. Kakashi was calm as ice, already preparing for the inevitable attack that would come. Asuma was weak still, and hated himself for it. Ino worried about him, she liked her teacher. Shikamaru was playing shogi with Choji, both were nervous. Sakura was also nervous, and Sasuke was filled with nervous expectation. He yearned to test himself against another ninja. His encounter against mercenaries and bandits were too easy. Also, he was burning with jealousy when he discovered how Naruto already mastered basic chakra control exercises. He wanted to show his superiority. He also wanted his Sharingan to awaken, badly. To him, it was an answer for all of his troubles. Naruto let all these thoughts and feelings wash away, he didn't want them. He focused on the force, on its ever-fleeting currents and eddies. He sought knowledge. It lasted a long time, his immersion, like years and decades. It came suddenly, an almost physical sensation. An image slammed in his memory, a flashback of sorts. Tazuna's daughter being taken away by some katana-wielding guys. Asuma fighting them, then falling down, his wounds reopened and bleeding. Naruto opened his eyes after that powerful moment. He saw the future, a slice of it to be exact, and he knew he could change it. But should he? He decided he would, because he didn't see why should Asuma die or Tazuna's family too. He had the power and decided to use it. Naruto waited until Kakashi and the rest of the genin were out of his sensory range. As usual, they had a lottery of sort to decide who stays behind to watch over Tazuna's family and Asuma. Naruto used the force to be the one to stay and no one suspected anything. He immediately went upstairs, leaving Tsunami to her own business. He entered Asuma's room, finding him lying on the floor, resting. Hey kid, you're on the watch today, Asuma smiled at Naruto, looking tired, but there was some color in his face. He was recovering from his injuries. Although it wasn't them that weakened him, so his body was fighting off an infection. Asuma caught some germs in the lake where he fought with Zabuza. Yes, Asuma-sensei, you just rest and I'll do my job. Aren't you tired? Naruto replied and added a heavy dose of the force suggestion to his words. It hit Asuma slowly, there was a heaviness on his eyelids. His breathing slowed down, and soon he was asleep. Naruto released the hold on him. It wasn't so easy to charm a ninja of Asuma's caliber, but the man was weak and he took advantage of that. Naruto waited patiently in Asuma's room. They came an hour later. Someone knew when the house would be the least protected. There were 4 of them, 2 were already in the house and running upstairs. The door slammed open, revealing 2 bloodthirsty swordsmen. Naruto didn't give them a chance. He raised his hand and made a gesture. Both men rose in the air, dropping their blades, grabbing their necks. It looked as if they were being hanged by an invisible rope. Naruto twisted his palm and their necks twisted savagely with a dry snap that ended their worthless lives. Naruto moved fast. He exited the room via the window and moved silently down the roof. He sneaked upon the other 2 attackers. They were busy with Tsunami, who was struggling and failing to get away. Naruto jumped and landed precise hits on their necks. Both men were rendered unconscious instantly. Thank Kami, Naruto-san. Tsunami croaked gratefully. Her neck was bruised and she hugged her son, who still looked shocked by the sudden turn of events. They were going to kill Asuma-san and you. As you can see, they failed. What did they want with you? Naruto responded calmly. Gato wanted hostages to threaten my father in case his ninja failed. Interesting, Naruto commented with amused tone. I think I will have to question these two. They knew when to attack this place. I'll take the attackers and you go somewhere to hide. There could be more coming. Do you have a safe place? There's a cave, about a kilometer down the coast. I could take a boat there. But what of your sensei? Tsunami said, already calm and ready to move. Naruto created 5 shadow clones. They will help you move him and will protect you as well. Go. Naruto waited till Tsunami and her son were gone. Then he gathered 2 surviving mercs in the back of the house. Both were tied and awake very soon. What the hell? The first spoke in surprise when he realized he was tied up. He had suntanned face, mustache, and scars on his face. He noticed Naruto, his buddy and 2 corpses. They were unmistakably dead, with their necks bent unnaturally aside. Kid, you better let us go. Naruto grinned in amusement. Save your threats, I'm in control here. Look, your buddy is awake too. The second merc was shorter man, with more muscles to his figure. His beady eyes blinked in surprise as he too realized his position. He looked at his buddy. Zori, what's going on? We were caught by this Rud Waraji, now shut up. Zori answered. No, no. Naruto said, admonishing Zori with a swift kick in the ribs. I want you to talk. Fast. What's Gato planning today? Fuck you, brat. Zori yelled. I'm not talking. Neither will Waraji. Yeah, Waraji agreed, although he didn't sound so defiant like his buddy. All right, I will have to convince you otherwise. Naruto said and smiled. He raised his hand with fingers spread wide. Blue-white lightning arced from his fingertips and struck Zori, who started to scream and jerk as thousands of volts made his body burn, spasm and feel unimaginable pain. It didn't stop, as Waraji watched in horror. Zori's body soon started to smoke and stopped twitching. The smell of charred flesh hit Waraji and he emptied his bladder and almost threw up. He didn't manage because he was too scared. Well? Naruto said in menacing tone and pointed his hand at Waraji. Waraji's mouth began making confession, automatically explaining how Gato planned to double-cross Zabuza and kill everyone. Also, he said that Gato promised his men to loot the waves and destroy the people who resisted him. Good man, you've been very useful. So I'll be nice too. Naruto said to Waraji, who got his hopes up. You'll let me go? Where did you get that idea from? I'll kill you fast. Naruto said and kicked Waraji's skull open. The brain and bone sprayed the grass. Waraji was dead before even realizing it. Naruto turned and started running, using his full abilities. He was a blur, a shadowy afterimage that made one think he imagined something passing by. The world slowed down for Naruto as he raced to intercept Gato and his forces. Waraji was helpful and told him from which direction Gato would come. Naruto ran across the land and water, and soon he was about 5 kilometers north of the bridge. He jumped on the tree and settled with 20 shadow clones to support him. Gato's group showed up soon. Naruto sensed them minutes away. They were a rowdy, loud bunch, already envisioning the bloodbath to come. Gato was a short, fat guy in an expensive suit. He looked like a typical evil bastard who liked to get what he wanted any way possible. Naruto grinned and almost laughed. Gato was at the head of his force, a clean target. He pawned one kunai and let it fly with the force. The whole group stood in shock as their boss fell over with metal protruding between his eyes. Naruto's clones sent their shuriken flying and soon 10 more men died with metal ornaments on their skulls. The herd of the mercs made a protective circle looking at the forest surrounding the road. They realized that the attacks were coming from trees. Naruto chuckled silently and lobbed several kunai with paper tags attached to their handles. The explosions ripped apart several more men, leaving the group of 50 now at 30 members. His clones charged and jumped out of their hiding spots, and they attacked mercenaries mano a mano. Each clone was more skilled than any mercenary, that's why 15 more men died. Naruto took his time to use the force and send a mass of shuriken flying at his enemies. He controlled their flight and made his messengers of death avoid deflective strikes to hit the targets unerringly. Then shurikens would extract themselves from the flesh and bone to fly again. It looked as if they were alive and thirsty for blood. Naruto cast an illusion over them, making them seem to yell that they wanted blood. It was a nice touch to the whole charade. Naruto was almost laughing loud when the men started to run. He decided to let them go. After all, there were just dozen of them. He jumped from his spot, approached Gato's corpse and took his head with his ninjutsu. He placed in the bag, making sure that the blood wasn't leaking anymore. He turned and ran at full speed towards the bridge. The bridge was covered with thick mist. Zabuza was already at work. Naruto approached silently and climbed on top of the structure, using overhanging beams to oversee the situation. There were corpses strewn around, the workers. He sensed Kakashi fighting a powerful, cold man. It was Zabuza. Both men were hidden in the mist, but Naruto could tell where they were. He sensed Tazuna with Ino and Sakura near him. He moved away, only to find Shikamaru watching over some strange mirror dome. He was preparing a string of explosives to destroy it. "Hey Shika, what's up?" Naruto said, and Shikamaru nearly dropped his paper tags. "Shit Uzumaki," Shikamaru hissed. He was scared out of his mind. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I came bringing gifts, Shika," Naruto said and showed the content of his bag. "Is that who I think he is?" Shikamaru asked hopefully. "Yeah, he is. I found him on the way to here. He had a large number of mercenaries with him." "I take it that they are no longer a factor." "Of course they aren't," Naruto smiled. "Now shut up and let me do my magic." He peered at the dome. It was actually a bunch of ice-made mirrors closely standing together and acting as a prison for Choji and Sasuke. They didn't look so good. Many needles were protruding from their skin. Naruto caught a fleeting image moving between mirrors, too fast for those two to defend themselves. They should have been dead already, but the strange ninja didn't seem to enjoy their pain. In fact, Naruto could sense that she was reluctant to kill them. So he decided to return the favor. He just threw Gato's head in the dome. The fighting stopped as soon as the head rolled in, leaving a thin blood trail behind. "What is the meaning of this?" the masked Kunoichi demanded as she stared at the head from her mirrors filled with her identical copies. Only one image was real her, but no one except Naruto could figure that out. Maybe Sasuke could, since he had his blood limit active. Naruto's shadow clone dropped in the dome. "It's Gato's head. You surely can recognize your employer, Hunter-san." "I'm a clone, by the way." "I see. Give me the head, I want to examine it." "Of course. Here you go." The clone responded with friendly smile and threw the head in the air. Suddenly all of the images in mirrors held Gato's head. "It is real. How did you get him?" Kunoichi asked. "Oh, easy. He was on his way to the bridge and I took him out. His men are also gone. Useless bastards, if you ask me, couldn't hit me at all. Even if there were 50 of them." "You killed 50 well-armed mercenaries alone?" she asked in disbelief. "Well, not all of them. My clones did the most of the work. And some mercenaries managed to run away. What you should have asked is what was Gato doing with all these guys on the way here?" The Kunoichi was smart girl. He was planning to betray Zabuza-sama and myself. He wasn't going to pay us." "Bingo. You are smart. No wonder Zabuza keeps you at his side." Naruto's clone beamed at her. "Zabuza-sama," the masked girl yelled. "We can stop the fight. Gato is dead. The bastard was going to betray us." "What are you talking about?" Zabuza's voice growled from the mist. It was most likely just one of his clones, since he wasn't going to betray his real position to Kakashi, who was proving to be a dangerous opponent. "One of Kakashi's genin brought Gato's head to me," the girl under the mask explained. "He said Gato was on his way here with 50 men. He was planning to kill us after we did his dirty job." "Fuck," Zabuza cursed. "Stupid moron, I should have killed him and left this country. Now I won't get a thing. At least we're alive, Zabuza-sama," the girl said. "Fuck," Zabuza sighed and the mist started to dissipate. "Let's hit the road and forget this shitty assignment. You can't trust no one these days." "Huh, that means this fight is over," Kakashi said as he was revealed on the upright beam of the bridge, above Zabuza. Their clones dispersed themselves and became pools of water. "Till the next time, copy ninja," Zabuza said and placed his large Zanbato at his back. The masked Kunoichi appeared next to him and both vanished in the blur of speed. The ice mirrors shattered and melted into water too, revealing the trio of genin alive. Naruto's clone dispelled himself. Shikamaru and real Naruto went down and started to help Choji and Sasuke to extract those needles from their bodies. Sasuke deactivated his Sharingan and winced. His fangirls were already fussing over him. Kakashi approached Naruto. He was littered with shallow cuts on his chest and arms. And he was glad it was all over. Good job, Naruto. How did you know where to find Gato? There was an attempt to kidnap Tazuna's family. I took care of the attackers and one of them succumbed to my interrogation. My family, are they all right? Tazuna asked with fearful voice. Relax, Tazuna-san, I protected them. Naruto said. They are hiding in the cave somewhere down the coast. I know the place. They will be safe there. Thank you, kid. Tazuna bowed respectfully. He looked around and shook his head sadly. All these men, dead. It couldn't be avoided, Kakashi said. But good times are coming, Tazuna-san. Your land is free at last, thanks to Naruto. How is Asuma-sensei? Shikamaru asked as he came behind Naruto. He's just fine, I sent him with Tazuna's family. Naruto explained. Good, Shikamaru said. I owe you one. Just doing my job, Shika, that's all. Besides, I like him too. The third would have been devastated if Asuma died. Yeah, the Nara boy grunted. He eyed Sasuke being besieged by Sakura and Ino and wished him all the best. He was going to need it. And so it ended with Tazuna's bridge finally being finished, with happy people of the waves wishing good luck to their saviors. The name of the bridge was the Great Naruto Bridge, because someone spread the word that it was Naruto who slew Gato and his dogs. It was ironic to Kakashi and Asuma that the boy who was so infamous in his home village became so respected and famous in the foreign country. So, Sarutobi stared hard at his still recovering son. Your report is pretty much clear on what happened. I'm sorry, Asuma, but it doesn't look good. I know, Asuma replied, feeling somewhat bitter. He was an experienced Jonin, yet his latest assignment was a total bust. He almost died, his students as well. Thank Kami that Kakashi was close enough to bail them out of the trouble. He should have stuck with the procedure and marched straight back to Konoha. No C rank was worth the lives of his pupils, who were also clan heirs. He'd feel repercussions for a while. Akamichi Choza wasn't too happy with him. Though was he thinking when he decided to go on? Sarutobi read all these thoughts from his son's face and posture and he felt for him. But there could be no favoritism towards anyone, not even to his son. I understand perfectly what is going on in your head, Asuma, and I recommend you let it go. Learn from it, but don't let it drag you down. In a retrospect, this mission wasn't totally ruined. Konoha gained a new client who will show preference towards its ninjas. It's not a small feat. Politically, we will gain a client state between us and the water country. And your students have gained an invaluable experience in the field, the kind that few survive to benefit from. Build upon it, use it to sharpen their teamwork and desire to better themselves. Yes, I was going to. But honestly, I made a deadly blunder, father. We escaped by hair's width. And Naruto saved them again. Gato was a clever bastard. Indeed, that boy surely surprised everyone. Sarutobi smiled. He was pleased to hear how Naruto saved the day. He seemed to be a very promising ninja. I must admit, Naruto seems to be the most competent genin of this generation. Asuma said with conviction. The way he took care of the mercenary force and forced Zabuza to stop fighting, it was just neat. Simple, efficient too. Brutal as well, he eliminated nearly 50 men. Yes, that's impressive, but I've seen better and worse, so don't worry about him. Sarutobi said calmly. As for your punishment, that will be simple. You will have an official reprimand in your record. Your team will be banned from taking a mission above C rank for 3 months. And you will have to give Naruto half of your pay from the next 5A, B or S rank. Get back to your home and recover. You look like you're going to drop dead. Honestly, you should take better care of yourself. Naruto was mildly bored. 2 long months passed since the mission to the waves and not much excitement occurred in that time. Team 7 took more D ranks in Konoha to have more time for extra training, meaning Sasuke and Sakura were playing catch-up game with Naruto, who bested them repeatedly in every physical and chakra-based exercise. Frankly, Kakashi was forced to become creative in ways to train Naruto beyond what Naruto did himself. He started to give Naruto some jutsus, much to Sasuke's displeasure. So Naruto became the designated jutsu user on the team. It was only logical considering his chakra reserves. Sasuke was pissed. Oh, he tried to hide it, but Kakashi wasn't blind. He explained to Sasuke that he would be able to copy those later on with ease. He just had to build up his reserves. Naruto could care less, because he learned those jutsus almost ridiculously fast. Kakashi was embarrassed to have forgotten about shadow clones and their memory transferability. Naruto smiled in memory of Sasuke and Sakura gaping at him when he mastered the water-based jutsus Kakashi copied of Zabuza in one day. Even Kakashi was surprised. Naruto wasn't. The Force was a flawless guide to everything he did. Its preternatural insight served Naruto well, for he was able to feel almost instantly how the Jutsu worked. In a way, his ability was better than Sharingan that only copied. Naruto mastered techniques with little training since he was able to feel chakra flows and predict fear effects. He realized he could develop a sense to predict a jutsu, its range and nature given enough time and experience. Also, he discovered that chakra nature wasn't an obstacle for him. The Force made him one with everything, and so was with chakra and its 5 natures: fire, lightning, wind, earth and water. Kakashi was beginning to suspect the same Naruto knew, because he gave Naruto more than just water jutsus. Naruto learned earth clones and Kakashi's favorite headhunter jutsu. He gave Naruto a basic lightning jutsu called the shock fist. It was a nice one where the user has to imbue his fist with lightning and it sends a shock in the enemy when it struck him. Only 3 hand seals for that fire jutsus. He showed Naruto just the grand fireball. But that one was very versatile and generally the most known amongst Konoha ninjas of a Chunin rank and above. It was Konoha's trademark in fact. But Naruto showed an unbelievable propensity for wind. Kakashi showed him the great breakthrough jutsu. Naruto tore apart dozens of trees in the training ground with one blast and made a 20-meter long gouge in the ground. It was impressive. Kakashi left it at that. His repertoire was vast, but he believed that Naruto didn't need more jutsus. He told Naruto to work on mastering these for various situations and left it at that. He pushed Sakura to train harder physically and luckily she listened. The wave mission gave her a wake-up jolt she needed so badly. In turn, Sasuke grew even more determined to grow stronger since he had his Sharingan. He increased his efforts and Kakashi begun training him to use his bloodline, of course in private sessions to keep prying eyes away. The other reason he hid those lessons from the other 2 of his students. He was a little ashamed of his favoritism, because he also expanded those lessons on other things. But how could he refuse to train such an eager pupil, Obito's cousin? Naruto was walking down the street when he heard someone yell in distance. He cast his force sense around to see what was going on. He felt 2 ninja signatures, a man and a girl. And Konohamaru and his friends Udon and Moegi. Naruto knew Konohamaru a little bit. The brat was annoying and focused on defeating his grandfather, the 3rd Hokage, to prove his worth. It was embarrassing really. Konohamaru would try and rush his grandfather proclaiming his goal and then trip over his short legs. Naruto avoided the boy like a plague, and when he couldn't he just pretended to be nice for the 3rd Sake. Naruto sneaked around the street and saw what was going on. A guy in brown suit that covered him from head to toe was holding Konohamaru by his stupid scarf in the air at his eye level. Naruto saw a paint on his face and Suna headband. The guy was a Suna genin and he was meaning business with the kid. The girl with a large fan at his side wasn't really into it. She was impatient go on her way. She was pretty, tall and blonde with brown eyes. Also very nervous on the inside. Naruto grinned and slowly sneaked upon them. His feet made no sound. That's why the painted dude dropped Konohamaru when Naruto made himself known from behind. Hey, what's the matter? Naruto grinned at the 2 Suna genin. Have these brats offended you somehow? Mind your own business, Blondie, I've got it covered. The painted boy said after he got calmer. He was suspicious though, not many genin could sneak upon him and his sister. Come on Kankuro, the girl scolded. Stop making a scene. We have better things to do. Remember why are we here? Short Tamari, Kankuro said as he eyed Konohamaru who wisely scrambled to Naruto's side. Just a sec to punish the brat for hitting me. Naruto-san, I wasn't watching where I was running when I hit him. It's just a misunderstanding, Konohamaru said as he hid behind the older boy who enjoyed his grandfather's confidence. He often heard his grandpa talk about Naruto. Well, there's that Kankuro-san. Naruto said to the Suna genin, still smiling, it's just an accident. It's not like you were really injured. Can we forget this and move on? Screw you. That kid hit me and he's gotta pay. Kankuro growled, moving his fingers surreptitiously. His chakra strings latched onto Konohamaru and pulled him towards their creator. But Naruto moved and grabbed Konohamaru, arresting his forward momentum. Stop doing that. Naruto spoke coldly, blasting Kankuro with potent killing intent. Are you trying to provoke a war? What are you trying to say? Temari asked with worry. She was intimidated, as was Kankuro. This boy was able to use killing intent like Gaara. This kid is the grandson of our Hokage. Naruto patted Konohamaru's shoulder. I'm sure he'd be interested to find out that some bully from foreign village tried to beat him up over nothing. Fuck you, I'll beat you instead. Kankuro hissed and took his package of his back. Kankuro. Temari warned him, but it was too late. Naruto already made his hand seal and 20 clones sprang into existence. You and what army? Naruto teased. He pushed Konohamaru away and told him to run. The boy listened and his friends joined him. Kankuro seethed, getting ready to attack, but suddenly stopped. Naruto turned to look above and to his left. There was a boy with dead eyes and aura of insanity standing on the tree. He was a redhead, green-eyed, and had a gourd on his back. There was a kanji for love on his left brow. Stop embarrassing our village, Kankuro. The boy said coldly and shunshined down to stand opposite of Naruto. Forgive us for my brother's stupidity. I didn't start it, that brat hit me and… Kankuro started to complain, but Gaara cut him off. Shut up or I'll kill you. Gaara's voice was cold as ice. Naruto sensed he was serious. Identify yourselves, since you're obviously foreign and unsupervised. Naruto demanded while dismissing his clones. The redhead bowed slightly. Of course. I'm Gaara of the Sand. These are my brother and sister, I believe you know their names. Indeed. You're here for Chunin exams, aren't you? Naruto knew of the upcoming event unlike his teammates. He doubted that Kakashi was going to let them participate. We are. Temari said, now relaxed. Naruto sensed she was counting on Gaara to deal with him if the need arose. Gaara, he was an odd one. Naruto looked at him and almost laughed. He could see that he was a Jinchuriki like him. And batshit crazy. Oh, this was priceless. The third would be very glad to know this. And you are? Gaara looked very interested. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto smirked and turned away from them. Good luck to you all in the exam. I heard it's dangerous. He could feel Gaara's cold stare follow him. As he turned around the corner, he immediately sped off to meet Sarutobi. Hey old man, Naruto said to Sarutobi after he closed the door to his office. It was late in the afternoon when he managed to catch the older man alone. Hello Naruto. What brings you here? If it's about Konohamaru, no need, I already know. Oh you do? Good. Naruto smiled. That's what brought me here. After Konohamaru left, I met the third member of that genin team. He is their brother, Gaara. I know that Naruto, they are Kasage's children. Sarutobi spoke impatiently. He wanted Naruto to get on with it. Curious, and if you're so knowledgeable then you also know that Gaara is like me. Naruto said smugly. I take it he didn't say that. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes in thought. No, but I felt it somehow. Don't ask me why, must be a Jinchuriki thing. Sarutobi nodded. Perhaps, but what do you think of him? Naruto shrugged. Not much, he's obviously powerful. His brother and sister seemed deathly terrified of him when he threatened to kill them. He is crazy, I saw it in his look. That's what we heard too from our spies, but we didn't know it was Kasage's youngest child who was Shukaku's container. Sarutobi mused aloud. What kind of a man makes his son a container and then drives him mad in his quest for power? I take it you don't like the Kasage. Naruto spoke casually. He didn't need Sarutobi's answer. His feelings were very clear despite his poker facade. No, not really. Now, please leave me alone. I have a lot of work to do. And thank you for watching over Konohamaru today. No problem. Naruto grinned and saluted in joking manner before exiting the office. Sarutobi shook his head before pressing his intercom button to raise his secretary ninja. Get me the Anbu commander and Ibiki, immediately Ishikawa-san. He didn't call for Danzo, the man already knew most likely. The presence of an unstable container called for extra security. Team 7 was nominated to enter the Chunin exam despite Naruto's expectations. Kakashi had expressed his belief in their skills. If one read between the lines, it meant he was pretty sure that Naruto and Sasuke were good enough to protect Sakura and pass the exam in relatively intact state. That's why they stood in the hallway on the second floor of the Ninja Academy listening to Sasuke boasting about his wonderful genjutsu detection. At least he had complimented Sakura on it in belated attempt to encourage her. Really smooth, while it wasn't in Naruto's opinion. The duck head just had to open his mouth and boast. He failed to realize that this trick with a fake room for the exam was meant to discourage those truly inept to spare their worthless lives. Also, it attracted undue attention on Team 7 and increased the number of rivals in the real test. All of that with just a few words. Sasuke was awesome. Not. Naruto at least got the satisfaction of watching Sasuke get trounced by the green-clad genin with enormous taijutsu skills. To increase Sasuke's humiliation, Naruto told him that he got beaten by a person unable to use chakra externally and who was wearing at least half a ton of weight on him. That shut him up finally, all the way to the real exam room. And there were other rookie teams awesome as and Kurenai's. Look at that, now all rookies are here. Inuzuka Kiba said, grinning widely. Naruto knew he was just hiding his nervousness. Sasuke-kun, Ino squealed happily and leapt to hug him. Sakura pushed Sasuke aside to stop Ino's advances on her prey. Naruto shook his head sadly. Fangirls were such a pest. But it was fun to watch Sasuke being pulled by them like a dolly. Troublesome women, Shikamaru muttered to Naruto. You guys got roped in this too? You know something I don't? Naruto wondered idly while exchanging nods with Choji and Shino. Both genin were listening too. I'm not sure, but my dad said that the Hokage allowed our nominations despite Iruka-sensei's objections. So? Naruto asked. He was with Iruka at first, but yesterday he changed his mind. And here we are in this troublesome situation. Ha Shika, you're just pissed that you have to work hard again. Kiba snorted. I can't wait for the fun to start, I'm gonna win this. Hey, would you lower your tone, kid, said a gray-haired boy with round glasses. He looked tall, athletic and about 17 or 18 years old. This is a serious thing. What do you mean? Sakura asked. I'm 5 years your senior and I've been attempting to pass the Chunin test for 7 times. I failed. Only luck and my team kept me alive. See those guys behind me? Those are the best genin from every village there is. Every single one has an ambition to be a Chunin. It's a harsh competition. Who are you? Naruto asked, feeling suspicious of the newcomer who was more than he seemed. He definitively was lying about something. My name is Yakushi Kabuto, Konoha's genin. I'm feeling generous today, so I'll share my knowledge of other genin here if you like. I've had a lot of opportunity to gather information on them. The gray-haired teen spoke with charm. He flourished a set of cards. I have it all on my nin info cards. All I have to do is to channel my chakra in them and the info will become visible. So, anyone curious? Sasuke took the bait first. Rock Lee and Uzumaki Naruto. Konoha genin? Kabuto asked in surprise, then shrugged. Alright, here it goes. Rock Lee, he's genin with 1 year of service. 75 D ranks, 46 C ranks. Not bad. No ninjutsu or genjutsu, but his taijutsu is off the scale. His sensei is Maeda Guy, Konoha's premier taijutsu fighter. His teammates are Hyuga Neji and Higurashi Tenten. Uzumaki Naruto, Kabuto searched for another card. Ah, there he is. 42 D ranks, 7 C ranks and 1 A rank mission. High stats on taijutsu, ninjutsu and kenjutsu. His genjutsu stands as average, although he rarely uses it. Sensei, Hitaki Kakashi. Impressive. Naruto smiled politely. Thanks Kabuto-san. Care to tell me about Gaara of the Sand? No problem Naruto-kun. Kabuto smiled and got another card. Here, he is from Suna. 30 D ranks, 39 C ranks and 1 solo B rank mission. Wow, he came back without a scratch from each mission. He's sure something else. Kabuto observed every rookie with satisfaction. As you can see, every genin here is strong. Of course there are some new faces here, like those from the new village, the Sound. Not really powerful as it is, but you can be sure they will try to prove themselves. That's when the trouble emerged. A trio OD genin from the Sound rushed Kabuto since they heard his condescending description of their village. Kabuto dodged the attack from one of them, or it just looked so. His glasses cracked and Kabuto threw up a little and fell on his knees. He looked shocked. Naruto narrowed his eyes for a second, then smoothed his face. He watched the genin who swung his arm at Kabuto. He was equipped with earmuffs and his arm had a metal gauntlet. Naruto noticed it despite the sleeve. The only thing that had physical ability to strike yet remain unseen was the air or the sound. Naruto betted it was the second thing, because Kabuto lost balance and puked. Sound could disturb the inner ear quite easily. But the fight was interrupted by the arrival of the examiner, a tall, trenchcoat-wearing guy with bandana covering his head. His face had scars and he looked mean. "No fights are allowed unless we say otherwise, Genin." The guy growled at the sound trio menacingly. "Another outburst like that and you're out of the exam." "Sorry, we got too excited." The sound-throwing Genin spoke insincerely. He didn't bother to be convincing. "I am Morino Ibiki, your proctor in the first test. Get your seat numbers and shut up." Ibiki yelled and everyone obeyed, taking the numbers by his assistants, a bunch of mean, hawk-eyed chunins. When everyone was in their place, Ibiki cleared his throat. "This exam will be a written test. But there are some rules that have to be obeyed without question. You will have 9 questions to answer, in your papers, while the 10th will be asked later. Now, you have exactly 1 hour to write your answers. No cheating, that will cost you points. If you are caught enough times you will be expelled. And your teammates can pass this exam only together. Also, every team member must answer enough questions to pass. If he doesn't, he and his buddies are out. That's the second rule. The third will be announced later when the 10th question comes up. You may start now." Everyone was shocked with harsh rules, especially about being failed as a team. And the questions were obviously too difficult for mere genins. Well, not for Sakura and Naruto. Sakura was a very bright girl, and Naruto had the benefit of having a teacher from a society that was thousands of years ahead. Naruto had to learn the galactic-level knowledge, which included hyperspace mathematics, xenobiology and molecular chemistry, and there was much more. Thank Kami he had the force. It helped him to memorize the sheer data Master Avaris was cramming in Naruto's mind. Thus Naruto easily solved simple physics questions and some others. He didn't bother to write at all, he had enough to pass. He idly started to observe the other genins. Hinata, who used her bloodline to gather answers from a guy 2 rows ahead. Naruto scanned him idly, impressed with his knowledge, and almost laughed. He was a plant to provide the answers for those who knew how to cheat properly. Naruto realized that the test was meant to weed out those who couldn't cheat well enough. He approved. This was worth his respect. He saw Sasuke use his Sharingan to copy the writing movements of another fake genin. He noticed Shino's bugs collecting answers. Kiba's partner Akamaru was on his head, thus able to see someone's paper and tell Kiba the right answers. Soon, the elimination of those 2 inept started. By the time the hour was up, 12 teams were kicked out. Naruto had a feeling it wasn't over yet. Ibiki was feeling gleeful as of a sudden. "Stop writing, maggots. The test is about to end. Now is the time to answer the 10th question, but there is a new rule here. I'm giving you 2 options. You can refuse to take the 10th question or not, but if you do, and answer it wrong, you fail. And of course your teammates failed too, regardless of their answer, and regardless of your results of the written test. Why would we want to refuse the question then?" Someone asked what was on everyone's mind. Ibiki grinned. "Good question, brat. Well, if you refuse to answer you fail and can try again in 6 months somewhere else. It's your bad luck that I'm the proctor this time, But if you answer and it's wrong, well then you will never be allowed to take the Chunin exam again. I have it in written from your cages that it will be enforced. So, who's staying and who's leaving? And hurry up, I'm not a patient person." Ibiki smiled happily. His audience swallowed his speech hook, line and stick too. He loved playing with his victims' minds. Naruto could feel it was just another trick. Ibiki's emotions were easily read. But he had to admit that the guy was devious. He just cornered every genin in the room and they started to panic like little headless chickens. The number of quitters began to rise quickly, and Naruto was amused. He frowned when he saw Sakura hesitate. She was worried for Sasuke. Crap, she was going to quit. He slammed his palm on the table. The sound stopped everyone and they stared at Naruto, who glared at Ibiki. "Bring it on already, I'm not scared. So what if I won't be able to take this exam again? It won't stop me from training and becoming stronger. There are people out there without any official rank in ninja world, yet they are easily as strong as any cage." That stopped most of the remaining genin cold, and Ibiki glared at Naruto. He eyed the genin in the room who remained and realized his bluff wasn't working anymore. "Well, anyone else wants to quit?" Nobody moved. Ibiki sighed. "All right, you passed." Everybody face-faulted at that.